Chapter 100. No one had ever experienced the feeling of being constantly monitored by their father-in-law. However, the momentary shock could not bury the ecstasy in Chi Yu's heart. The possibility of his strength recovering and the emergence of Kiran Yin's true ability filled him with joy. The burly figure quietly disappeared. A light lit up, and the room returned to its original brightness. Kiran Yin quietly descended from the sky and landed in Chi Yu's hand. Its energy fluctuations seemed to have weakened a little. Its energy formed a strange resonance with the Kiran pearl. Just as Chi Yu touched it, there was a flash of light, and Kiran Yin disappeared into the Kiran pearl. Hope made Chi Yu's blood seem to be burning, and illusions appeared frequently in his mind. The memory left by Wenting's father was very deep in his mind, and it was not something that could be completely understood in a short time. Before Chi Yu could think carefully, the scorching aura in front of him suddenly disappeared. Wenting, whose body was covered in red scales, slowly opened her eyes. Without the influence of the scorching aura, Chi Yu could clearly see the red scales that covered her body outline an almost perfect curve. Her slender calves, round and elastic thighs, her belly without a trace of fat, and her slender waist that seemed to be able to be held with one hand. Coupled with her round buttocks and full chest, it was all very imaginative. Although the scales could cover her skin, they could not cover the indescribable curves that could not be praised with words. He came and he left, Wenting said lightly. Although her voice was calm, Chi Yu could clearly see that the scales on her body were trembling slightly. He nodded gently and carefully pulled Wenting into his arms. He stroked her long hair that had turned fiery red after the appearance of the scales, and his heart was filled with pity. Chi Yu, tell me, why is he only willing to let me hear his voice, but not let me see him? Why is it that after waiting for so many years, when my heart, which was already in despair, was suddenly awakened by his appearance, he is still unwilling to see me? Wenting's tears were very hot, and the scorching liquid wet Chi Yu's slightly burnt clothes. Her delicate body trembled even more violently. If you want to cry, then cry it out. Uncle doesn't want to see you because he doesn't dare to. In his heart, it's filled with complicated feelings for your mother and a deep sense of guilt towards you. Ting, do you hate him? Hate? Chi Yu, can you tell me, was it his fault or my mother's? Wenting raised her head and looked at Chi Yu with teary eyes. Chi Yu sighed and said, they belong to different camps, who can say who is right and who is wrong? Everything is in the past, they are all gone, but you are still alive. I think, whether it is uncle or auntie, they don't want to see you live in sorrow. Uncle doesn't want to see you because he doesn't want to increase the pain in your heart. Wenting leaned into Chi Yu's arms and cried out in pain. Her delicate body that was pressed against Chi Yu's trembled violently, as if she wanted to release all the sorrow in her heart. Chi Yu didn't try to persuade her anymore, but only patted her back and used his heart to comfort Wenting's sorrowful heart. He knew that only by releasing all the sorrow in her heart would it be better for Wenting. Time passed, and when Wenting was finally tired of crying, she fell into a deep sleep in Chi Yu's arms. Her long eyelashes were still glistening with tears, and she looked very lovable. Chi Yu only had one arm left, and his body was relatively weak. It took him some effort to carry Wenting to bed, and he covered her with his quilt. He gently kissed her forehead and whispered, sleep, sleep. When you wake up, everything will be better. Chi Yu didn't leave, nor did he think about the memories left by Wenting's father. He just used his left hand to hold Wenting's slender and soft little hand, and sat on the bed looking at her somewhat pale face. The red scales on Wenting's body gradually faded, and her body was now completely naked. However, even if Chi Yu didn't cover her delicate body with the quilt, at this time, Chi Yu would only quietly protect her. The door opened and Ryue walked in from outside. Seeing the scene in the room, she was stunned at first and said softly, Chi Yu, I just felt a huge energy fluctuation in your room, are you okay? Chi Yu nodded and lowered his voice, I'm fine. Ryue, come sit, I have something to say to you. Ryue closed the door, and walked to Chi-Yu's side to sit down. She glanced at Wen-Ting on the bed, and with her dragon power, she naturally could clearly feel the aura of sadness coming from Wen-Ting's body. She had already heard about Wen-Ting's life from Chi-Yu, and now that she saw Chi-Yu holding Wen-Ting's hand tightly, she already understood some things. Is she thinking about her parents again? Chi-Yu sighed softly and said, she is a pitiful person. Not only is she an orphan like me, but she also clearly knows about her own life. Sigh, just now, her father appeared from Kirin's secret. Chi-Yu didn't need to hide anything from Ryue, and simply told her everything that happened in the room. After hearing Chi-Yu's words, Ryue's eyes lit up, and she said with surprise, Chi-Yu, you mean, there's hope for you to recover? Chi-Yu nodded and said, although this is a very difficult path, it is still my only hope. No matter what, I have to continue down this path. Shortcuts are always risky, but don't worry, after going through so much, I'm no longer the reckless ruffian I used to be. Ryue thought for a moment and said, then what are you going to do now? Chi-Yu said, I want to leave with Wen-Ting for a period of time, and find a suitable place to practice the cultivation method that her father taught us. Then, we will go around the country to find traces of berserk beasts, and try to restore our strength as much as possible. Tingting's father is the greatest genius of our Kirin clan, and the cultivation method that he researched must have its own reasons. With Wen-Ting and me together, nothing will happen. No, absolutely not, I want to go with you. I know the strength of the berserk beasts very well. What if you meet a strong one? Chi-Yu, I already belong to you, don't tell me you want to abandon me? Ryue's mood has become a little emotional. Chi-Yu shook his head and said, of course not, how can I bear to leave you? You are my Tyrannosaurus Rex. But Ryue, you should know how much we Zodiac Guardian warriors need you. I have lost Kirin's arm, and you are the most powerful Zodiac Guardian warrior. Moreover, you have to take care of Longyu Group. How can you handle so many things? We won't be gone for too long. I have calculated that Wen-Ting and I will come back in July at the latest. At that time, Ming Ming will have her summer vacation, and it is also the time for us to fulfill our promise with Yum. Although the ability that I got from Wen-Ting's father can't make me invincible, one thing can be guaranteed, and that is our safety. Kirin Yin was created by Tingting's father, and with Kirin Yin's real ability, even if we meet a 10,000-year-old berserk beast, we still have a chance to escape. So, you can rest assured that what we are really going to deal with are the 3,000-year-old berserk beasts and the 6,000-year-old berserk beasts that are not strong. You need to take care of this place. Although I can't bear to part with you and Ming Ming, for the future of our Zodiac Guardian warriors, and also for our future, this time, I must go. But, I really don't trust you. Ryue's eyes were full of worry. Chi-Yu chuckled and said, I am a man, what's there to worry about? Are you afraid that I will elope with Wen-Ting? I won't go to the hospital tomorrow. Please apologize to Uncle Shui-Yin. I will take my phone with me. How about this, I promise to call you every month, okay? Every month? Do you want to die? I will call every day. If I don't call for a day, I will go to you immediately. After having sex with Chi-Yu, Ryue showed the look of a Tyrannosaurus Rex for the first time, and looked at him fiercely. Chi-Yu wanted to hug Ryue, but he only had one arm now, and his left hand was holding Wen-Ting's hand. He could only lean over and kiss Ryue's delicate face gently. Okay, I will call every day, okay? So, you agree to let us leave together? Ryue leaned into Chi-Yu's arms and said, I am not an unreasonable woman. This is your only chance. For me, for Ming Ming and Tingting, you must protect yourself. Do you understand? Since you want to leave, leave as soon as possible. Don't tell Ming Ming first. She is still young, and I am afraid that she will do anything to go with you. Chi-Yu thought for a while and said, Yes, you have thought it through. Well, I won't tell anyone. After I leave, you can apologize to everyone for me. When Wen-Ting wakes up, we will leave tonight. During my absence, the family will depend on you. Now the strength of the Zodiac Guardian warriors is far from enough. You should urge everyone to practice more. I will try my best to pay attention to the other 3 Zodiac Guardian warriors while I am traveling around the country. Wait for me to come back. Chiyu, can you come with me for a while? Ryue's beautiful eyes were full of reluctance. She looked at Chiyu so softly that Chiyu could not say no at all. He carefully put Wen-Ting's hand under the quilt, stood up and took Ryue's hand out of his room. As soon as they entered Ryue's room, Ryue immediately let go of Chiyu's hand and closed the door. She leaned against the door and looked at Chiyu faintly. Chiyu was a little embarrassed under her gaze. Ryue. Before he could say a word, Ryue had already thrown herself into his arms. She took the initiative to hug his neck and kissed his lips crazily. Chiyu immediately reacted after a short moment of surprise. He used his left hand to hold Ryue's delicate body. Their lips ignited intense sparks. Ryue seemed to be completely bursting with the emotions in her heart. Her movements were somewhat wild, without the slightest reservation. Even Chiyu did not know how long this kiss lasted. When Ryue's movements changed from wild to gentle, and when their lips parted, Chiyu's left hand had unknowingly climbed up to the bouncy fullness of her chest. Both of them were panting very quickly. Chiyu saw a strong affection in Ryue's eyes. That affection was as exuberant as a fire, as if it wanted to burn him. Ryue gently pushed Chiyu down on the bed. Standing by the bed, she gently untied the lapels of her upper body. Chiyu still had some rationality left. Ryue, it's not possible. The great master had said that it would take 4 people. It's not possible. It's not our first time. Don't tell me you think your body's condition is better than last time? What 4 people? I don't care. You said I'm a T-Rex. You're about to leave me for half a year. Even if I have to be weak for a period of time, I definitely won't let you off today. Chiyu's gaze was already straight. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Right now he was somewhat speechless. Ryue's movements weren't fast. When she untied her outer clothes, revealing the light blue lace underwear inside, Chiyu still didn't have any intention of refusing. After all, he was born a hoodlum, and also inherited Kirin's dissolute bloodline. In this kind of situation, perhaps any normal man wouldn't possibly refuse. Ryue didn't continue to take it off. She just turned in a circle and said with a smile, "Am I not?" Chiyu nodded his head foolishly and said, "Beautiful. Really too beautiful. You're simply the most outstanding creation of the Creator." The light blue bra had a circle of light lace around it. The exposed snow-white hemispheres formed a deep ravine. Using his eyes to calculate, Chiyu could feel that it was at least 36D in size. Moreover, that bamboo shoot shape was perfect. It wasn't like using the bra to support those plump twin peaks. Instead, it was more like Ryue's twin peaks were supporting the bra. Below was a slender waist. Although they were both slender, Ryue's waist was more elastic. With a slight movement, it seemed to contain explosive energy. Among the girls, Ryu's figure was the tallest, second only to Jida's girlfriend, Lanya. She was only about 1.8 meters tall, which made her have a pair of perfect slender jade legs. From the perfectly round and perky buttocks outlined a perfect curve. When it reached her thighs, it contracted and became slender. That kind of beauty that even a sculpture couldn't achieve was presented on Ryue's body. Wen-Ting's temperament was elegant, while Ryue's was fiery. Even though she was standing there, she was like a ball of fire that was burning. Especially when Chiyu saw that Ryue's thong with lace was completely revealed in front of him when she turned in a circle. Chiyu's eyes also started to emit flames. Although the winter clothes were very thick, the small tent still appeared underneath. Ryue floated up and directly landed on Chiyu's body. Both of her hands pressed down on Chiyu's shoulders. Before Ryue could do anything, Chiyu's hands had already wrapped around her waist. He suddenly flipped them over and pressed Ryue under him. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a sinister smile. Strange wife, I'm a man. Of course I should be the one taking the initiative. Ryue's bra was buckled in advance. Chiyu lowered his head. Using his teeth, he directly took off Ryue's bra, releasing the bouncy fullness. After all, Ryue had done it with Chiyu once before. Her pretty face was now as red as an apple. Both of her hands stared at Chiyu's chest. If not, he would have bent down and said, "Tell me, have you done it with many girls before? Otherwise, how can your movements be so skillful?" Chiyu was already almost drooling. "Baby, how can you still ask such a question at this time? Don't you know that this is a man's nature?" "I don't care. You've been skillful since the first time. And you still say that you're a virgin." The strength of Ryue's hands was not something that the current Chiyu could resist. He tried a few times but failed to break through her defense. A trace of sadness appeared in Chiyu's eyes. "Are you bullying me because I only have one hand?" Ryue was stunned. She hurriedly moved her hands away. "No, Chiyu. No, you're cheating." Following her lovable moan, Chiyu had already taken the opportunity to break through her defenses and bury his head between her breasts. In an instant, Ryu's fair skin was suffused with a layer of red as her arms subconsciously wrapped around Chiyu's head. Chiyu exerted force with his left arm and moved his body upward. His solid chest pressed against Ryue's chest. He faced her face and smiled wickedly. "Wife, you're hugging my head so hard. Aren't you afraid that I'll be suffocated to death by your treasures? If that's the case, it'll be big news. A certain man will be suffocated to death because his wife is too voluptuous. Bite me." Ryue was embarrassed and annoyed. She raised her head and bit Chiyu's shoulder without hesitation. Although Chiyu's shoulder was in pain, a strange feeling arose in his heart. His lower body became even more erect. It pressed tightly against Ryue's lower abdomen. It was even throbbing slightly because of the strong blood rush. A faint feeling of spring filled the air. Ryue's dragon power was unreservedly transferred into Chiyu's body. As he moved further, Chiyu couldn't help but feel that one hand was not enough. However, at this time, he had already lost the ability to think. The last bit of protection left on Ryue's lower body had already been roughly torn away by Chiyu. As she let out a somewhat high-pitched scream, the thick erection broke through and returned to the warmth and wetness that he had once enjoyed. Ryue's somewhat astonishing slender legs wrapped around Chiyu's waist. Chiyu frantically kissed every inch of Ryue's upper body. At the same time, he moved his left hand under Ryue's perky buttocks. He forcefully lifted them up, making their bodies even more closely connected. Kirin and the dragon had completely merged into one. Chiyu's body was indeed relatively weak. However, with the support of Ryue's dragon power, Kirin's sexual ability was not inferior to before. Under the entanglement of Ryue's elastic thighs, he continuously launched wave after wave of powerful impact. Ryue's moans gradually became louder. The villa's soundproofing was very good. She didn't need to worry about anything at all. The thick feeling of spring constantly filled the room. The two's bodies and minds were completely open. Their souls and desires became one, making their hearts even closer. When Ryue's delicate body spasmed for the fourth time, in extreme pleasure, Chiyu felt as if all 36,000 pores on his body had opened at the same time. A strong sense of comfort accompanied by the essence of life gushed out. At this time, Ryue's body had become extremely sensitive. Under his scorching and powerful spurts, she quickly reached her fifth climax. The extreme excitement had caused her body to completely sink into the climax. Her moans weakened, but her delicate body continued to tremble slightly. She tightly wrapped her arms around Chiyu's neck and softly murmured something. Chiyu held Ryue's delicate body in his arms. He still maintained the previous position, unwilling to let go. He gently kissed Ryue's forehead. He was a little surprised to find that after nearly 2 hours of madness, he didn't feel tired at all. Instead, he was more energetic. He turned around and let Ryua lean on his body. His left hand gently stroked her back and butt. His heart was filled with a sense of satisfaction. Ryua panted as she said, Why is it still so hard? Isn't it already?" Chiyu chuckled and kissed Ryua's lips. "Do you think Master Zagru was joking when he said it was 1 against 4? I wasn't used to it the first time, but it's different now." As he spoke, he gently pushed upwards, causing Ryua to let out a low moan. "Could it be that you're only a quarter?" Ryua said in a panic. Chiyu gave her but a light slap and said, "Silly girl, I just want to hug you and lie down for a while, and I'll be satisfied." Ryua gently stroked Chiyu's chest. "Chiyu, I'm sorry. I can't satisfy you. How about I call Ming Ming over? I'll see. That little girl won't refuse." Chiyu smiled and shook his head. "No need. You've really learned bad things. Do you want to drag Ming Ming down with you?" Ryua said unhappily, "I'm doing this for you. How dare you say that I've learned bad things? I'm going to ignore you." As she spoke, she turned over and got off Chiyu's body. She lay down next to him. It wasn't that she was really angry, but that Chiyu's erect thing was still bouncing up and down. It made her a little flustered. The previous 5 times were already hard for Ryua to bear. After all, even if she was a dragon, her body still had its limit. Chiyu was silent for a while. Suddenly, he said, "Ryua, thank you." Ryua was stunned. She pressed her delicate body against Chiyu. "What are you thanking me for?" Chiyu's eyes revealed a trace of confusion. "I've lived for a whole 20 years. Do you know? Today is the happiest birthday of my life." "Ah." Ryua sat up abruptly. "What did you say? It's your birthday today." Chiyu held Ryua's hand and nodded with a smile. "That's right. Today is my 20th birthday. 20 years ago today, when I was born, I was abandoned. A kind person sent me to an orphanage. From then on, that day became my birthday. When I was young, I almost always spent my birthday alone. Sometimes, when I saw other children accompanied by their parents on the road and saw those parents buying birthday cakes for their children, I would immediately hide far away. From then on, I hated any kind of dessert, especially cream. I've never had a bite since I was young." At this point, Chiyu's eyes were a little red. He seemed to see everything that happened in his childhood. Ryua did not speak. She just listened quietly. Chiyu continued, "Later, when I was 10 years old, I began to wander around in society. After all, there were too many children in the orphanage. My teacher couldn't take care of them all, so she didn't have time to care about me. After that, I spent most of my birthdays with some scoundrel friends. I still remember clearly that on my birthday when I was 10 years old, it was the first time I drank alcohol. From then on, I liked the feeling of being drunk. At least, when I was drunk, I didn't have to remember anything. Until this day last year, I still spent my birthday in a drunken stupor. But I didn't expect that just after a year, everything had changed. Compared to before, I am so happy now. Ryua, thank you for giving me such a beautiful memory on my 20th birthday." Looking at Chiyu's gentle and tearful eyes, Ryua's heart trembled. "Silly, why didn't you tell us your birthday earlier? It would have given us time to prepare." Chiyu shook his head gently and said, "Actually, I never thought about my birthday. I heard that a child's birthday is a day of hardship for a mother. Every time I celebrate my birthday, I will think of my family who abandoned me. Although I don't know why they abandoned me, I still miss them very much. My heart is very conflicted. I hate their cruelty, but I am very eager to see my parents, even if it's just once." Ryua hugged Chiyu's head and stuck her soft face to Chiyu's. "Chiyu, you must remember that you are no longer alone. You still have me and everyone. Don't be sad, I will definitely give you a birthday present. From this year onwards, I will accompany you on your birthday every year until we are old, okay?" Chiyu smiled and kissed Ryua's face. "You just gave me the best birthday present. What is better than my Ryua?" Ryua blushed and said, "It's a pity that I can't satisfy you. But it doesn't matter, I have a way." As she spoke, she broke free from Chi-Yu's embrace. She pressed her right hand on the bed and floated to the bedside cabinet. She opened the cabinet and took something out. Ryua, what are you doing?" Chi-Yu asked curiously. Ryua put her right hand behind her back and mysteriously returned to Chi-Yu's side. She smiled strangely and said, "You definitely won't be able to guess." Chi-Yu was stunned for a moment. He looked at Ryua and said, "Hurry up and let me see. I have always been very curious." Ryua stretched out her hand from behind her back and opened her palm. Chi-Yu was surprised to find that there were 2 jellies in her hand. They were beautifully packaged jellies. On the packaging of the jellies there were 4 words, "Crystal Love." Chi-Yu had seen it on TV. This was one of the most popular jellies nowadays. However, he had never eaten this kind of thing before. Chi-Yu said, "Are you going to give these 2 jellies to me as a birthday present?" Ryua didn't know why her pretty face suddenly became very red. She whispered, "Yes and no." As she spoke, she tore the 2 jellies apart. However, she didn't give them to Chi-Yu. Instead, she put them into her mouth and chewed them gently. At this moment, Ryua seemed to have made up her mind. She looked deeply at Chi-Yu. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tenderness. She slowly bent down. Before Chi-Yu could react, she had already opened her mouth and sucked on his erect lower body. In an instant, Chi-Yu felt a strong rush of hot blood into his brain. His vision went blank. The sudden and strong sensation from his lower body made him tremble uncontrollably. Chapter 101. This was the Crystal Love. No wonder he felt that the name of the jelly was familiar. Chi-Yu suddenly understood. He had watched a lot of porn movies in the past and heard people talking about the Crystal Love. At that time, he didn't quite understand what it meant. He didn't expect it to happen to him. What he didn't understand was how Ryua knew about this. Before she had sex with him, she was indeed a virgin. However, Chi-Yu didn't have the ability to think anymore. Although Ryua's movements were very jerky, no matter how she moved, she would give Chi-Yu a strong sense of pleasure because of the jelly in her mouth. That feeling was absolutely indescribable. This wasn't the first time Chi-Yu was being tasted. Lu Xiangbing did the same thing last time, but the difference was that Ryua was completely voluntary. With the help of the jelly, it felt like she was on a whole new level. Chi-Yu's body was trembling, and his eyes had become abnormally blurry. Ryua used both hands to gently hold the erect erection, and slowly sucked in and out of the high-spirited tip. Her eyes were like silk, and she didn't know when her body had a reaction again. The stimulation was too intense. Even if Chi-Yu had the romantic blood of Kirin, he didn't have much actual experience. Under this intense stimulation, it was different from the time he had sex with Ryua. It wasn't just physical pleasure. Looking at such a beautiful woman under him, the strong sense of conquest quickly brought him to the peak of happiness. "Ah, Ryua, I can't take it anymore. Get up." There was no need to detoxify this time. Chi-Yu didn't want to let Ryua bear everything, but Ryua was very firm and didn't let Chi-Yu break free. During this struggle, Chi-Yu could no longer bear the reaction of his body. A more intense ejaculation than before appeared. The vigorous feeling of spring was completely stimulated, and the seed of life spurted out again. Ryua's movement stopped for a moment. She sucked the high-spirited tip and gently stroked its extension with her small hands. It wasn't until Chi-Yu had completely ejaculated all the essence that she slowly raised her head to look at him. Chi-Yu's face had become flushed at this time, and there was a layer of fine honey sweat on his body. Even when he had sex with Ryua, his reaction was not so strong. Ryua was looking at Chi-Yu, and Chi-Yu was also looking at her. Chi-Yu was surprised to find that Ryua actually swallowed everything in her mouth. "Ryua, you..." Chi-Yu was surprised and wanted to stop her, but it was too late. Ryua gently wiped the residue on her mouth and said softly, "I want to keep your smell. I want to keep it forever." Chi-Yu smiled bitterly and said, This birthday present of yours is too big. But I really didn't expect that you even know about crystal love. Ryua rolled her eyes at him and said, Are you guys the only ones allowed to watch camcorders? I have them here too, and they are all top-grade ones. Do you want to watch? Chiyu hurriedly shook his head and said, Forget it, if I watch a camcorder again, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave today. Ryua's pretty face turned slightly red. She lightly spat and said, You're not being serious. Chiyu chuckled. Could it be that you're serious again? This crystal love is something that even I didn't expect, and you actually know about it. Stop it. Don't think too much. That jelly of mine wasn't specially prepared for you. Women all like to eat snacks. I can only say that you're lucky. Ryua explained in a low voice. Chiyu laughed and said, No need to explain, I understand. What are you laughing at? I can't even laugh. Ryua, I really like this birthday present of yours. How great would it be if I could celebrate my birthday every day? In your dreams, at most once a year. If you have the ability, go tell Ming Ming. Ryua knocked on Chiyu's head, then ran to the washroom to rinse her mouth. Looking at Ryua's perfect curves, Chiyu couldn't help but be a little infatuated. After venting twice, Chiyu was now both physically and mentally refreshed, as if his entire body was filled with energy. He knew that when he joined with Ryua just now, Ryua had transferred more than half of her dragon power to him. Although it wouldn't hurt her vitality, it would at least take a few days for her to fully recover. Actually, what he didn't know was that if it wasn't for Ryua eating swan and eye meat before, perhaps she wouldn't even be able to resist his first crazy attack. Kirin's ability wasn't something an ordinary person could compare to. Get dressed, it's already late. Leave at night when it's dark, alright? Ryua said softly. Chiyu could not bear to go against her wishes. Nodding his head, he said, Then let's leave after dinner. But it's better if you don't tell everyone that I'm leaving. After I leave, you can mention me to explain. I'm afraid everyone will be worried about me. Ryua unhappily glared at him, saying, Don't tell me I can be at ease? Chiyu embraced Ryua, lightly sighing, saying, I also don't want to leave you, but now I have no choice but to leave. I'll return as soon as possible. I hope I can have some gains in this half a year. Ryua, during the time I'm not here, you and Grandmaster must urge everyone to diligently cultivate. Everyone should eat some of that swan and eye. Now every additional day is more advantageous to us, after all, our Zodiac guardian god's strength increases the fastest. After a brief discussion with Ryua, Chiyu quietly returned to his room. Wen-Ting was still asleep, but at this time her complexion had already calmed down. Her pretty face still had some traces of tears remaining, looking extremely lovable. Chiyu looked at the time. There were still close to 2 hours before dinner. He simply sat cross-legged next to Wen-Ting, cultivating according to the method of his ascending Qilin method. Along with the operation of his spiritual force, the various energy molecules in the air once again began to converge in his body. Although it wasn't fast, many a little makes an ocean. Cultivating was always better than not cultivating at all. Moreover, the main purpose of Chiyu choosing to cultivate now was to calm his heart, so that he could carefully experience the exclusive skill of Ink Kirin that Wen-Ting's father imparted to him. These were the most advantageous guarantees for him and Wen-Ting in the next 6 months. The spiritual imprint was in the deepest part of Chiyu's mind, and he easily found that deep memory. Chiyu didn't go to experience the cultivation method of his and Wen-Ting's fusion, but directly skipped to everything about Kirin. From the tone of Wen-Ting's father, Chiyu understood that the ability contained in Kirin must be very powerful, the 1,000 opportunities 100 changes Jade Pearl Domain method. As to what was so special about it, he would have to rely on his own continuous study. As for the fusion, the effect should be better when he cultivated with Wen-Ting in the future. When Chiyu immersed himself in understanding the content, he was soon attracted by the 1,000 opportunities 100 changes Jade Pearl Domain method. It wasn't a simple ability, it covered a wide range of light, and could be used in conjunction with the various abilities of the Kirin clan at the same time. It was like a dragon's domain. No, it was even larger than a domain. This was because Kirin Yi needed a lot of energy to truly unleash its power, but Kirin Yin's own spirit could save a lot of thundercloud force compared to Ryue's dragon domain. When Chi-Yu was awakened by Wen-Ting, he suddenly realized that the only thing he could really understand during this period of research was the 1,000 opportunities 100 changes Jade Pearl domain. It was indeed the 1,000 opportunities 100 changes Jade Pearl domain method. In Kirin Yin's true ability, the 1,000 opportunities 100 changes Jade Pearl domain method, there were so many changes that he couldn't even remember a rough idea, let alone apply it. You're awake. He opened his eyes. Chi-Yu saw that Wen-Ting was looking at him. Wen-Ting nodded gently and said, "Actually, I didn't sleep very well. I heard what you and Ryue said. Chi-Yu, are you really going to take me away from the Dragon Domain courtyard for a while?" Chi-Yu nodded and said, "I want to restore my strength, and the most important thing is your help. The beasts won't come to us, we can only find them ourselves. Moreover, your father taught me a lot of his understanding of Kirin's abilities, and we need to practice and explore at the same time." Wen-Ting said, "I'll listen to you, as long as I can help you recover to your previous state, I'm willing to do anything." "Then when are we leaving?" Chi-Yu said, "After dinner. I only told Ryue that we're leaving, don't tell her later. I don't want to experience the feeling of parting." Wen-Ting smiled and said, "Chi-Yu, maybe you haven't realized it yourself, but you're actually a very emotional person." Chi-Yu touched his nose and said, "Maybe. It's getting late, let's go out for dinner." Winter nights always darkened very early. Although it was only 6 o'clock at night, the sky outside was already dark. Chi-Yu walked out of the room with Wen-Ting and was surprised to find that, for some reason, the lights in the corridor were not turned on, and the surroundings were dark. Although this did not affect his vision, it still made him feel a little strange. Wen-Ting stuck close to Chi-Yu and subconsciously increased her energy. She said in a low voice, "Chi-Yu, why is the villa so dark? Did the power go out?" "How is that possible? The lights in our room were still on just now. Let's go down and take a look." Although Chi-Yu had lost his ability, his courage did not diminish at all. He took Wen-Ting's hand and walked towards the stairs. The stairs were darker than the corridor because there were no windows, and the weak light from outside could not enter. Wen-Ting's body emitted a faint red light, so the two could see the stairs. Chi-Yu shouted as he walked, "Ryue, master, where are you?" When the two walked to the first floor, they found that the hall on the first floor was also dark. Only the ruby eyes of the white dragon statue in the hall emitted a faint light. Wen-Ting said, "Chi-Yu, why do I feel that something is wrong, but it doesn't seem like something happened? With Ryue's strength, even if there was an enemy attack, it's impossible for there to be no sound at all. What's going on?" Just as Wen-Ting asked the question in her heart, suddenly, a ball of fire lit up. There was a golden luster in the fire, and Wen-Ting subconsciously moved in front of Chi-Yu. The fire shot straight in the direction of Chi-Yu, but just as Wen-Ting was about to receive the attack, the fire suddenly stopped. The light flashed, and the fire burst out completely. Tiny fire spots lit up at the same time. Under the illumination of the fire, Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting were surprised to see that it was a 3-layer cake on a cart, and the number of the fire spots was exactly 20. "Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you!" Melodious singing came from different voices. Around the hall, balls of light were lit up, and people holding candles walked towards Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting from all directions. Walking at the front was Ryue and Ming-Ming. Chi-Yu's eyes were wet. He finally understood everything. In this short period of time, Ryue had actually arranged all these for him. Because of his excitement, his body was trembling a little. Looking at Ryue, who was walking at the front, he choked with sobs and couldn't speak. However, his eyes had already said a lot. When Ting turned to look at Chi-Yu in surprise, "Is today your birthday?" The birthday song was still singing. Chi-Yu nodded and said in a low voice, "Why is there sand in the villa? It's getting into my eyes." The birthday song finally ended. Ryue had already walked in front of Chi-Yu. She didn't say anything, but just looked at Chi-Yu quietly. With a smile on her pretty face, she said softly, "Happy birthday, Chi-Yu." Chi-Yu looked at Ryue, and then looked around. He found that all the Zodiac Guardian warriors were here, even Guan Ping, who was originally in a coma, appeared in the crowd. The golden flame just now was his masterpiece. Guan Ping looked very good, and his body was emitting surging energy. Needless to say, with the effect of Tao Wu's NEI pill, his strength had increased to a certain extent. "Boss, you really hid it from us. Even I didn't know that today is your birthday." Vol ran over with some dissatisfaction. Looking at Vol, Chi-Yu smiled bitterly and couldn't say anything. Every year, his birthday was the most painful time in his heart. How could he tell others about his birthday? If it wasn't for the deep happiness he felt when he fused with Ryue today, he wouldn't have said it. Ming Ming stepped forward, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed Chi-Yu's face. "Happy birthday." Her action immediately caused a burst of whistles, led by Su Dong, and assisted by Yen Xiaoi, Hu Guang, and Ian Ming Ming's pretty face was slightly red. Under the candlelight she was so beautiful that Chi-Yu couldn't help but be in a daze. When Ting gently pulled Chi-Yu's clothes and said in a low voice, "You! Happy birthday!" Although she didn't make out with Chi-Yu like Ming Ming did, her elegant and pretty face revealed a smile of blessing. Ryue reminded Chi-Yu, "Come on, it's time to make a wish, and then share the cake with everyone." Chi-Yu nodded. With every step he took, he seemed a little hesitant. At this moment, he even doubted whether everything in front of him was real. He was really afraid that this was just a dream. Even if it really was a dream, he didn't want to wake up. At this moment, Chi-Yu suddenly felt that he already had a family. The Dragonfield courtyard was his home. In this big family, he had his lover and his friends. Family and friendship also surrounded him. At this point in his life, he finally couldn't help but cry. Closing his eyes, Chi-Yu silently made his first birthday wish in his life. "Let all my friends, all my lovers, be healthy, safe, and happy every day. Let me have so many good friends and a good wife to accompany me on my birthday every year." When Chi-Yu opened his eyes, everyone had already surrounded him. Ming Ming smiled and asked, "What did you wish for?" Chi-Yu smiled and said, "I can't say. I can only tell you that this wish of mine is very greedy." "Blow out the candles," Wen Ting reminded Chi-Yu. He didn't know when, but her face was already covered in tears. There was one thing that she and Chi-Yu had in common. As an orphan, she had never celebrated her own birthday. Feeling everyone's blessings for Chi-Yu, her heart was also filled with warmth. Those kind friendships were like the warmest energy in the world, filling every corner of the Dragonfield courtyard. "Come, let's blow together." With a gust of wind, the hall darkened. Chi-Yu quickly kissed Ryue, Ming Ming, and Wen Ting's pretty faces. The lights came on. Uncle Zhou turned on the lights. He smiled at Chi-Yu and nodded. Chi-Yu also smiled kindly. At this warm moment, suddenly, there was a violent knock on the door. Everyone couldn't help but frown. Ryue's face turned cold. She gave Uncle Zhou a look. Uncle Zhou was about to open the door when he heard someone shouting outside. "Master, master, quickly open the door. Am I late?" Hearing this voice, everyone couldn't help but smile. Aside from Jida, who else could that loud voice belong to? The door opened and Jida ran in. He panted as he ran in front of Chi-Yu. "Master, happy birthday. Good that you didn't cut the cake. It seems that it's not too late." Chi-Yu smiled and said, "Brother-in-law, thank you." Ryue couldn't help but laugh and said, "What are you calling him?" "He calls you master, but you call him brother-in-law." Jida laughed and said, "This is called different places. Anyway, we didn't call him wrong. Ming Ming, right?" Ming Ming said coquettishly, "Brother, you're so bad. Chi Yu, my brother, bullied me." Chi Yu shrugged and said helplessly, "What should I do? He's my brother-in-law. I can't beat him up." Ryua smiled and said, "Well, cut the cake first. Chi Yu, here." She handed a slender table knife to Chi Yu. Chi Yu took the knife and looked around. He clearly saw the happy smile on everyone's face. He took a deep breath and calmed his heart. Thank you, Daejian. I never thought that I could have such a birthday in my life. I won't say anything else. I just want to tell you that Chi Yu being able to have friends like you in his lifetime is my greatest fortune. Our Zodiac Guardian warriors will become the strongest in history. Come, eat the cake." Soon, the cake was distributed to everyone. Chi Yu ate very slowly because he wanted to carefully taste the taste of the cake. His eyes mostly fell on Ryua. In just 2 hours, Ryua had called everyone back and even prepared a cake for him. Although Chi Yu did not say it out loud, his heart was filled with gratitude for her kindness. Zagru smiled and said, "Well, the cake is finished. Let's eat." "Wait a minute." Chi Yu hesitated and said, "There's something I want to tell you. I didn't want to say it at first because I didn't want you to worry. But now I think it's better to tell you. Wen Ting and I will be away for a period of time, maybe half a year." The people who were about to enter the dining hall stopped when they heard Chi Yu's words. They all knew what happened to Chi Yu. At this moment, they couldn't help but show a surprised look. The one who had the most intense reaction was Ming Ming. "Chi Yu, are you right? You want to leave here? Leave us?" Chi Yu hurriedly said, "No, of course not. But I have a chance to recover my strength in a short time. This may be the only chance. If I don't grasp it, I will regret it for the rest of my life." Zagru was shocked. "What did you say? You can recover your strength?" No one knew Chi Yu's physical condition better than him. After Chi Yu used the ultimate Kirin arm, he carefully checked on Chi Yu's body more than once. That body was like a black hole. It showed how much energy and potential Chi Yu had consumed. That was an astronomical amount of energy. Moreover, the overdraft of potential meant that Chi Yu needed to spend a lot of time to recover. 100 years was not an empty promise. Now that Chi Yu suddenly said that it was possible to recover his strength in a short time, how could he not be surprised? No one wanted Chi Yu to recover his strength more than Zagru. After all, if the Zodiac Guardian warriors didn't have Kirin, they would never be able to reach the peak of their strength. Not only would they not be able to deal with strong beasts in the future, they would also not be able to fight against the Zodiac Guardians led by Yamu, who inherited Athena's bloodline. Chi Yu's eyes shone with determination. "That's right, it's very possible that I can recover. That's why I have to leave. I can't stay in the Dragonfield courtyard. I lost my energy fighting the beast. If I want to recover, I have to start with the beast." Zagru said worriedly, "But what about your safety?" Ming Ming said, "That's right. What about your safety? You've already lost your abilities, and Sister Wen Ting is a living giant beast Sarira. Once her situation is discovered by others, it'll easily attract the beasts to attack. What will you do then? Why don't we all go with you?" Chi Yu shook his head and said, "No, we are not only the Zodiac Guardian warriors. At the same time, you all have your own identities. Protecting Yan Huang is important, but I don't want you to give up everything that originally belonged to you. Moreover, staying here is the most suitable place for you to train. With Master Zagru's help, it will be the most beneficial for everyone. As for my safety, you don't have to worry. Although Wen Ting's strength is not strong, we have already found a way to protect ourselves." Ming Ming insisted, "No, I don't believe you. Chi Yu, if you don't have a suitable reason, I will definitely not let you go." Chi Yu and Wen Ting looked at each other, and Wen Ting nodded to him. Chi Yu said, "All right, I know that everyone might not believe me. Then I will show you. But because Wen Ting and I have not trained in this skill, I am afraid there will be some mistake. Everyone just needs to know that we have the ability to protect ourselves. All of you, spread out a little." Hearing Chi Yu's words, the Zodiac Guardian warriors, Jida and Master Zagru spread out, leaving an empty space in the middle of the hall for Chi Yu and Wenting. Chi Yu's eyes flashed, and he activated his spiritual power according to the spiritual mark that Wenting's father had left him. Although there were no energy waves coming from his body, he seemed to be much more spirited when he activated his spiritual power. Wenting took a deep breath, and her eyes flashed with a red light. Her body spun on the spot, and a scorching hot air was emitted. A huge amount of energy was released. Fortunately, the energy was maintained within a small area. Otherwise, even if the Zodiac Guardian warriors were fine, there would probably be nothing left in the hall. When Wenting's body finished spinning, her body was suddenly covered in a red light. When everyone could see her clearly, Wenting's body was completely covered in red scales. Even her face was covered in a layer of light, similar to the light that appeared when the Zodiac Guardian warriors underwent a mutation. At this moment, she completely looked like a Zodiac Guardian warrior, but the energy on her body was much stronger than the Zodiac Guardian warriors. Of course, everyone who already knew about the giant beast relic understood that although the energy emitted from Wenting's body was strong, it was not something that she could use. The red light gradually turned from bright red to a pale red. Wenting raised her right hand and pointed at Chi Yu. With a flash of light, a red light shot out towards Chi Yu's chest. Chi Yu did not dodge, and let the red light shoot into the Kirin pearl on his chest. Suddenly, the energy of the Kirin pearl was stimulated by the red light shot out by Wenting. In the flickering light, the purple, blue, red, and green lights that belonged to Chi Yu lit up at the same time. Chi Yu's Kirin aura reappeared at this moment. Although it was very weak, it really existed. However, the purpose of Wenting's finger was not to stimulate the Kirin aura on Chi Yu's body. A dark red light shone from Chi Yu's chest, and the light shone brightly. Everyone only saw a blur, and then Chi Yu was wearing a cloak. Everyone had seen it before, it was the Kirin's octatic treasures, Kirin-een. However, the current Kirin-een was obviously different from before. Layers of dark red halos constantly flowed on it, and the aura of energy was released, full of domineering aura. Chi Yu nodded at Wenting. Wenting let out a low shout and crossed her arms in front of her chest. At this time, her eyes were exposed from behind the light cover on her face. Her eyes had turned completely fiery red, and then the burning aura of her body increased exponentially. Almost in an instant, the hall on the first floor of the Dragon Field Villa was completely dyed into a sea of red. The blood-like light was mixed with sparkling silver light spots. Wenting also had a part of Kirin's bloodline. At this moment, the aura of her body was completely released. In a flash, Wenting had already arrived in front of Chi Yu. Her body temperature was so high that when she approached Chi Yu, his clothes already gave off a burnt smell. However, Chi Yu did not move. He gave Wenting a determined look. Wenting took a deep breath. She first raised her right hand, and then her left hand quickly pointed at the 5 fingers of her right hand. Suddenly, dark red blood flowed out. Wenting's expression changed slightly, but she quickly returned to normal. Just when everyone was wondering why she did this, Wenting's right hand suddenly moved. She did something that no one expected. As the blood flowed, Wenting's right hand suddenly grew 5 sharp nails that were about an inch long. With a flash of red light, her right hand directly clasped onto Chi Yu's right shoulder. Chi Yu let out a muffled groan. His body trembled slightly, and his face revealed an intense expression of pain. His body also slightly spasmed. At this time, Wenting's right hand with her nails had completely pierced into Chi Yu's left shoulder. Her fingers had completely sunk into it. "Ah, what are you doing?" All the Zodiac Guardian warriors exclaimed almost at the same time. "Everyone, don't move!" Chi Yu shouted, stopping the people who were about to rush over. Wenting closed her eyes. Her face was a little pale. No one knew if it was because of the pain from her fingers or because she felt sorry for Chiyu. The red light instantly became stronger. When Ting's body became blurred again, the red light became stronger and stronger, and the scorching heat gradually turned Chi-Yu's clothes into ashes. Just when everyone was wondering what they were doing, Chi-Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Everyone was surprised to find that it was actually the silver pupils that appeared when Chi-Yu used Kirin's ability. Chi-Yu shouted, "Fuse!" The 4 colors of the Kirin pearl on his chest erupted at the same time, almost reaching the level of Chi-Yu's peak. At the same time, the Kirin pearl on Chi-Yu's back also emitted a dark red light, completely enveloping Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting's bodies. At this moment, Chi-Yu's eyes were constantly flashing with black and silver lights. At this moment, Wen-Ting's body also underwent a huge change. Wrapped in the red light, Wen-Ting could no longer be seen. The fiery red energy was gradually shrinking. Soon, it had shrunk into a light ball with a diameter of about half a meter. Wen-Ting's fingers that were inserted into Chi-Yu's shoulder were connected, and it was completely attached to him. The muscles on Chi-Yu's face kept spasming. It was obvious that he was enduring intense pain. At the same time, his body began to emit the original 4 colors of light: purple lightning, green wind, blue water, and fiery red air current. Every kind of energy was increasing crazily, becoming stronger and stronger. Chapter 102. Chi-Yu's body shook as he shook off the ashes of his clothes. However, what was revealed was not his naked body. Instead, he was covered in crystal-clear black scales. Layers of black and silver energy waves were constantly spreading out from his body. The enormous energy belonging to Qilin once again appeared in the senses of the Zodiac guardian god warriors. Everyone could clearly feel how pure and enormous the energy contained in it was. Even if Chi-Yu was at his peak, he would not be able to reach this level. At this moment, Chi-Yu's new right arm continued to change. Originally, Kirin's arm was covered in black scales and surrounded by silver light. However, now, his right arm was different. Originally, 2 black scales were mixed with a fiery red scale. The silver light was also present, and it complemented the sparkling light emitted by the fiery red scales. Compared to before, the current Kirin's arm was much stronger. It was obviously much stronger than Chi-Yu's left arm. He slowly clenched his right fist. In the process of clenching his open palm, everyone present could clearly feel the explosive energy contained in his right arm. Streaks of fiery red light constantly flickered on Chi-Yu's new right arm. Accompanied by the silver light, the powerful energy even lit up the red diamond-shaped scales on Chi-Yu's forehead. However, this was not the end. Just as the huge right arm was clenched, a domineering aura suddenly erupted from Chi-Yu's body. The Zodiac guardian god warriors almost took a step back at the same time. Jita was even worse. He only managed to stabilize himself after taking 3 steps back. Chi-Yu let out a low roar. His upper body bent forward slightly, and 2 golden rays of light shot out from his back. It was a pair of huge golden wings, each about 2 meters long. The thick wings were completely formed by golden energy. However, they looked as if they were real. Every feather was so real. When the wings retracted, Chi-Yu's entire body was covered from his back. He had absorbed the golden-winged Great Ping Eagle's power under the effect of soul stealing. At this moment, Chi-Yu's eyes had already turned red, and a faint light flickered within them. That invisible pressure caused the Zodiac guardian god warriors to naturally feel a sense of subservience. This kind of energy aura was too terrifying. Especially in the villa, every part of Chi-Yu's body seemed to be filled with tyrannical energy. Chi-Yu raised his left hand. In a flash of light, a huge image of Kirin's head appeared out of thin air. A light wheel appeared around the image. In the silver light, a huge shield with a diameter of nearly 1 meter appeared out of thin air. The shield was full of Kirin's patterns. It was incomparably brilliant. A layer of faint light flashed and stuck to Chi-Yu's left forearm. "My God! Boss, Didn't you say that you had lost all your abilities? Why do you seem to be much stronger than before? Yan Xiaoi stared at Qiyu, who was like a demon god in front of him. Qiyu's long black and silver hair moved without any wind. His voice became much deeper than before. Everyone can see that in this state I can protect myself. However, I will also hide this from everyone. This state is brought to me by Wenting's energy. We can't merge for more than an hour every day. Otherwise, it will cause harm to Wenting's body. However, even if we encounter a strong enemy, I think an hour is enough. Even if we can't defeat them, with the golden-winged eagle's ability to soar 90,000 miles, we can at least choose to leave. As soon as Qiyu's voice fell, all the light suddenly converged at the same time. The scales quickly shrank back into Qiyu's body. With a flash of red light, his right arm had already been separated. The red light flashed, and almost in a flash, he had already dodged to Ryue's back. Only Qiyu was left in the entire hall. Qiyu's body swayed slightly, looking a little weak. His face had also become much paler. He smiled helplessly and said, "It's our first time merging, so it's inevitable that it's not very comprehensive. However, everyone should have seen it already. Modi, why are you running? Ming Ming, why is your face red?" Su Dong came to Qiyu's side and held him up. He laughed softly and said, "You're going to run naked in front of the girls. How can they not be embarrassed?" Only then did Qiyu realize that after the mutation, his body was actually completely naked. Only then did he remember that his clothes had completely turned into ashes. No wonder Wenting immediately slipped to Ryue's back as soon as they finished merging. No matter how thick his skin was, it had already turned the color of pig liver. He didn't have the thundercloud force, so he couldn't summon clothes from the Kirin bead. He could only forcefully take off Su Dong's clothes, cover his important parts, and run upstairs. Hu Guang laughed strangely and said, "You block the front but not the back. Qiyu, your butt is so white. Waha." When Qiyu changed his clothes and returned to the hall, everyone looked at him and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Even Master Zagru couldn't escape. F***CK, what are you laughing at? This is too big. How could I forget such an important thing? Qiyu looked at everyone who was laughing awkwardly and angrily. Haha, Qiyu, you look so cute just now. Running naked in front of everyone. No wonder you're the king of the Zodiac. Su Dong laughed at Qiyu unscrupulously. Qiyu said fiercely, "Do you believe that I won't take off all your clothes? Of course, except for the beauties. Go to hell. Do you want us to grow a needle's eye?" Modi's pretty face was red as she scolded. It was Zagru who came to solve Qiyu's embarrassment. Looking at Qiyu, his eyes were full of excitement. "Great, this is really great. Qiyu, not only did you recover your strength, you're also stronger than before. We didn't lose Kirin after all. How did you guys do it?" The wound on Qiyu's shoulder that Wenting had found had already healed, but there was still some slight pain. Touching the wound on his shoulder, Qiyu said, "This is a secret. However, this is only a temporary solution. After all, I can only have that kind of strength for an hour every day. Normally, I'm still relatively weak. This time, the reason why I brought Wenting away was to perfect our fusion skill. I hope that we can fuse in the shortest time possible and fully display our strength. Only in this way can we have the ability to deal with sudden crises. Another reason is to recover my own strength as much as possible. After all, borrowing Wenting's strength can't solve the root of the problem. Only by recovering my previous thundercloud force and Kirin's arm can I better improve. Otherwise, I can only maintain the 5-cloud realm for an hour every day. Maybe it's enough for now, but who knows what kind of crisis we'll face in the future. So, we have to leave. The only way is to eliminate more beasts. Let me devour their energy to replenish my lost energy and potential. Only then can I recover to my previous level in the shortest time possible." Zagru nodded and said, "I understand. The heavens have finally given us, the Zodiac guardian god, a chance. Go, but no matter what, safety must always come first. Do you understand? Chiyu nodded and said, Grandmaster, don't worry. Brothers and sisters, I'll definitely return within half a year. When Ting had already changed her clothes, her elegant face had a faint smile as she stood at the side and looked at Chiyu with a gentle gaze. After using the fusion skill, she needed to experience a short period of weakness and needed a few hours to recover. However, she didn't care about it at all. When she thought that this fusion skill would definitely allow her to be together with Chiyu forever, her heart was already very satisfied. When Ting understood that the reason why this skill appeared was probably because of the father that she had never met, Chiyu walked in front of Ming Ming and held her little hand. Looking at Ming Ming, whose eyes were slightly red, he smiled and said, Are you reluctant to part with me? Ming Ming curled her lips and said, Who would be reluctant to part with a ruffian like you? Go, go, go quickly. Although she said that, she had already jumped into Chi-Yu's arms while choking with sobs. Chi-Yu hugged Ming Ming's delicate body with one arm and comforted her. Ming Ming, be good and complete your studies well. I'll definitely return before July. At that time, we still have to go to Greece together. At that time, we can see the Aegean Sea together. Ming Ming raised her head and looked at Chi-Yu with teary eyes. You really can't not leave? Sighing inwardly, Chi-Yu gritted his teeth and nodded. Then you must come back early. Also, remember to call me every day to tell me that you're safe. Since it was another call, it was impossible for Chi-Yu to refuse. Thus, he could only nod his head and comfort Ming Ming a few more times before she stopped crying. Chi-Yu, we don't have anything to give you since you're about to leave. Let me help you before you leave. Guan Ping came to Chi-Yu's side and patted his shoulder. Chi-Yu was astonished to discover that all the Zodiac Guardian God warriors were glowing with their own energy auras. Furthermore, these energy auras were completely locked onto him. He immediately understood what they wanted to do and quickly said, Don't do this. You won't be able to recover for a few days. Zagru smiled and said, Just take it. It's a birthday gift that we prepared for you. The faint light gradually became stronger, and all kinds of different colors shone at the same time. Except for Vol and Yen Xiaoi, the other Zodiac Guardian warriors almost completed their origin form mutation at the same time. 9 pure and rich ascending cloud art energies were transmitted into Chi-Yu's body from different directions. The Zodiac Guardian warriors' cultivation method was originally from the same source. Everyone worked hard at the same time. The thundercloud force condensed into one in Chi-Yu's body and quickly circulated around his 7 meridians and 8 meridians. Under the control of everyone's spiritual power, the thundercloud force condensed and did not dissipate. It was only slowly absorbed by Chi-Yu's body. Every time they completed a thundercloud revolution, Chi-Yu could clearly feel that his body was enriched. He knew that the Zodiac Guardian warriors were using the thundercloud force to help him recover his potential. If they did this, not only would they use up the thundercloud force, they would also hurt their vitality. Although no one said anything, Chi-Yu firmly remembered this kindness in his heart. Even Chi-Yu himself did not know how long had passed. When he woke up from his cultivation, all the Zodiac Guardian warriors, including Ryue and Ming Ming, were gone. In the hall, only Master Zagru, Wen Ting and Jida were left. It was already very late at night. Chi-Yu opened his eyes. The feeling of weakness after using the ultimate Kirin's arm had completely disappeared. His body became as strong as before. Although he still could not feel the thundercloud force, he was very clear that his body had taken a big step towards recovery. Everyone has gone back to rest. Chi-Yu, take care of yourself. Zagru looked at Chi-Yu and nodded to him with a smile. Chi-Yu said, I won't say thank you. Please tell the brothers that I will come back as soon as possible. Master, I'm leaving. I'll have to trouble you to take care of my family. I think you will have to go down the mountain to gain experience in society for a long time. Zagru smiled and said, "As a heavenly Een, this is my responsibility." Before leaving Dali, I had a long chat with Master Chong Xing. He told me everything about his experience. He also imparted his understanding of Buddhism to me. It's a pity that great Master Chong Xing is about to pass away. Rest assured, I won't leave the Zodiac Guardian God Warriors before you fully recover. Chiyu glanced towards the south. Although he had only met great Master Chong Xing briefly, he still had a deep respect for the previous Heaven's Guide in his heart. Could he be blamed for the destruction 100 years ago? No, perhaps it was all fate's arrangement. But the same thing must never happen to the Zodiac Guardian Warriors of his generation. Master. Jida looked at Chiyu. Brother-in-law, do you have any instructions? Chiyu smiled as he walked in front of Jida and lightly punched the latter's firm chest. Jida said, Master, remember the token that the old man gave you. It should be useful for you when you go out. Also, you must come back alive, for yourself and for my sister. Now, I'm telling you as Ming Ming's brother. Chiyu smiled and said, Don't worry, my life is very tough. Jida said in a bad mood, I really don't know if Ming Ming's choice of you is right. As he said that, he subconsciously looked at Wen Ting beside Chiyu and said in a low voice, You pervert, you can't bring back another woman this time. Don't you have enough? Brother-in-law, you don't have to be so direct. Do you think I still have the mood to chase after girls? Jida curled his lips and said, That's not necessarily true. Who can say for sure? Even Ruyue, who has such a strong character, would be attracted to you, let alone ordinary little girls. Anyway, you have to be careful. If Ming Ming is wronged in the future, even if you are my master, I won't let you go. Chiyu shook his head helplessly and said, All right, I've heard this more than once. How can you not let me go? As he said that, he took Wen Ting's hand and pressed it on the Kirin pearl on his chest. Wen Ting understood and released a beam of energy. With a flash of light, a small booklet appeared in front of Chiyu. Chiyu reached out and grabbed the booklet. A faint light flashed in Chiyu's eyes. He lowered his head and looked at the booklet in his hand and said, Jida, you've called me master for so many days. I don't have anything to give you. A few days ago, when we were free, I summarized some useful things from my Kirin skills. It should be of some use to you. Take it and practice well. Don't embarrass the old man in your soul of Yan Huang. Ting Ting, let's go. As he said that, he took Wen Ting's hand and walked out of the villa. Jida lowered his head and saw that the booklet in his hand was about 20 pages long. It was made of printed paper that was cut in half and bound together. There was no cover. On it were some simple pictures, names of meridians and some other note. The pictures looked a little rough. Obviously, it was drawn by Chiyu himself. Thinking back to how busy the Zodiac Guardian God had been these days, Jida couldn't help but feel a warmth in his heart. Even with so many things to do, Chiyu still didn't forget to write down these cultivation experiences for him. This kind of heart was worthy of the word master. Master, have a safe journey. Chiyu's footsteps paused for a moment as a faint smile appeared on his face. He truly felt that Jida had called him master more sincerely than any other time in the past. Chiyu held Wen Ting's hand and walked out of the Dragonfield courtyard. Once they were out of the main gate, his footsteps stopped. Wen Ting said, Where are we going now? Chiyu thought for a moment and said, To buy a car. Buy a car? Wen Ting looked at him with some surprise. No need. Didn't I let you drive my car last time? We can drive that one. Chiyu shook his head and said, No, your car is a sedan. Since we are going to travel around the country, a sedan can't adapt to all kinds of road conditions. So, I decided to buy an off-road vehicle. Then we can go on our way. As for your original car, leave it at the Dragonfield courtyard. Maybe it will be useful in the future. Wen Ting said with some embarrassment, I don't have much savings here. The better off-road vehicles are very expensive. Chiyu said with a smile, You don't have to worry about money. Do Do you think I, your husband, will let my wife spend money on a car? Wen Ting laughed and said, You have money? Is it the prize money for designing underwear? Well, of course not. When Qiyu thought of the scene at Fengya Underwear Company, although he was very thick-skinned, he couldn't help but blush. He looked up at the sky and said, It's still early. Let's go for a while. Wen Ting nodded gently and said, Okay. The two of them didn't bring any luggage. They just held hands. They slowly walked along the airport highway towards the city. Winter nights were always long and cold at the same time. Although the northern wind tonight was not strong, it still brought a faint chill to the body. Wen Ting was of the fire attribute, so she naturally wouldn't be afraid of this little bit of cold wind. Qiyu had just recovered his physique with the help of the Zodiac guardian god warriors. The cold wind on his body only brought him a comfortable feeling. The two of them walked quietly, no one spoke. It was rare that there was some moonlight tonight. Qiyu occasionally looked at Wen Ting. Her originally elegant temperament was now even more elegant and refined. With a beautiful woman accompanying him, it was difficult to feel tired no matter how long the road was. For some reason, Qiyu didn't want to walk to the end of the road. It seemed that the longer the road, the better. The two of them walked for more than 2 hours. The time they spent cultivating in the Dragon Field courtyard was really long. After 2 hours of walking, they arrived at the ring road of the capital. The sky also brightened at this time. The morning air was very clean. Qiyu moved his body and said with a smile, Ting Ting, are you tired? Wen Ting smiled and said, What do you think? Even an ordinary person like you isn't tired. How can I be tired? But, where are we going? Qiyu thought for a moment and said, There's still some time before the car shop opens. Why don't we go eat some breakfast? Okay, the cake we ate last night has already been digested. As soon as Wen Ting heard about eating, her eyes suddenly lit up. Since you are so rich, why don't we go eat seafood for breakfast? I know a very good restaurant nearby. Qiyu just remembered that Wen Ting's appetite was not inferior to his. He said with a wry smile, If it were an ordinary person, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to feed you. Wen Ting said grumpily, You're so annoying. Do I eat so much? Qiyu smiled and said, Ting Ting, do you know? When we came back from Gui Street, I used to think that you were one of our Zodiac Guardian warriors. Wen Ting was stunned and said, Zodiac Guardian warrior? What do you mean? Qiyu let go of Wen Ting's hand and suddenly ran forward. You still don't understand? You're so stupid. I thought you were a pig in the Zodiac. Except for pigs, no one can eat as much as you. You? Don't run. Stop. Wen Ting's pretty face was red as she chased after Qiyu, who was laughing. They continued to run forward, one chasing the other. At this time, Qiyu suddenly saw a truck coming from their direction. It was normal to have a truck on the road, but what surprised Qiyu was that the truck had been going in the opposite direction. And it was very fast. The car was shaking slightly as if it was drunk. And the direction of the truck didn't seem to be going in the same direction. It was going in one direction. On the side of the road not far from the truck, there was a bridge. Under the bridge was a dry river, and the drop was at least more than 20 meters. The truck was about to rush off the bridge. Without any hesitation, Qiyu immediately changed the direction of running and ran to the truck. At this time, he had forgotten that he had lost his ability. Qiyu, be careful, Wen Ting exclaimed. Although her ability wasn't strong, it wasn't a problem to stop a Mercedes-Benz truck. But the problem now was that Qiyu had already rushed to the truck's path and was about to be hit. At this critical moment, Wen Ting shouted without any hesitation, Qiyu, fuse. With the experience from the first time, Wen Ting's movements were much more skilled this time. Her graceful body drew a red arc in the air and almost instantly rushed to Qiyu's side, directly fusing into his right arm. Qiyu only felt a pain in his right shoulder, and a surge of energy instantly rushed into his body. When fusing with Wen Ting, not only could he reach the strength of 5 clouds, but he was also directly in the process of his original form mutation. The truck was very fast, but Wen-Ting was even faster. When the truck rushed to the front of Chi-Yu, his mutation was already completed. He roared. The surging energy formed a wall in front of Chi-Yu, forcibly blocking the truck's path. In order not to hurt the people in the truck, Chi-Yu's energy control was very clever. The two thundercloud force, wind and water, were mainly used to quickly reduce the truck's impact. The truck was driven by the front wheels. Chi-Yu conveniently lifted the front of the truck, causing it to lose the ability to continue moving forward. Ah! A scream came from the truck. A driver who looked to be in his 40s looked at everything in front of the truck with his mouth agape. He didn't break the traffic rules on purpose, but because he was too tired after driving for a long time, he actually fell asleep while driving. That was why the truck was driving in the wrong direction just now. Chi-Yu shouted, "Put out the fire." The driver's hands were a little shaky, but he still did it subconsciously. The truck landed again. Chi-Yu clearly felt that the energy connection between him and Wen-Ting was not close enough, especially when he was in a hurry. At this moment there was already an intense pain in his right shoulder, and the energy was also leaving him. His figure flashed, and he was already next to the truck. He suddenly pulled down the door, and his red eyes stared at the driver. He said in a low voice, "Are you crazy? If you want to kill yourself, go home." No. Don't kill me, I was just asleep." "Monster. Monster." Chi-Yu couldn't help but feel bitter. The dignified Kirin was called a monster, and the reason why the truck was driving in the wrong direction was actually because he was asleep. It really made him not know whether to laugh or cry. He said helplessly, "All right, since there's nothing else, drive carefully. Forget everything you saw just now." After saying this, his figure flashed, and he disappeared in front of the driver. The driver's pants were already wet. Although Chi-Yu looked very mighty, his whole body was covered in scales, and he had a pair of wings on his back, which still left an indelible impression on the ordinary driver. He suddenly woke up from his sleep, and then saw the scene just now. The driver was so scared that he wet his pants, and for a while, he couldn't drive. 1,000 meters away, Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting's bodies separated. As soon as Wen-Ting separated, she immediately said angrily, "Are you crazy? I think you're the one who wants to kill yourself. If I hadn't reacted quickly, you would have been knocked off the bridge just now." Chi-Yu said a little awkwardly, I didn't do it on purpose. I just forgot that I had lost my original ability." "Stop, don't be angry. In the future, I promise I won't do it again." "In the future? There's still a future?" When Wen-Ting was angry, she looked a bit like the sun and the moon. Chi-Yu quickly smiled apologetically and said, "No, of course not. At that time, I was just anxious to save people, so I didn't think that much. That driver is really not an ordinary idiot. He actually fell asleep while driving. His boss must be very black-hearted." Wen-Ting's anger gradually subsided after she vented a few words. After all, Chi-Yu was also trying to save people. However, her face was very pale, and she looked very tired. Previously, in order to complete the fusion with Chi-Yu in the shortest time, she almost completely stimulated her energy in an explosive manner. Although she saved Chi-Yu in time, it consumed a lot of her energy. In the case that the two of them had not reached a real tacit understanding, it was very dangerous to encounter such a situation. Chi-Yu also saw that Wen-Ting's physical condition was not good, but he didn't have thundercloud force now, so he couldn't do anything for a while. He could only take Wen-Ting's hand and sit down by the roadside, letting Wen-Ting take a rest first. Wen-Ting panted slightly while adjusting her physical condition. She closed her eyes, and her pale face had an additional flush at this time. Chi-Yu sat next to Wen-Ting, not daring to have a moment of carelessness. At this time, Wen-Ting's condition was very weak. From last night until now they had done the fusion twice in a row, but they hadn't really practiced the cultivation method of the fusion. Chi was fine, but it put a lot of burden on Wenting's body, and it would take a long time for her to recover. You too, hey, I'm talking to you too. A voice suddenly came. When Chi looked, he saw a patrol police car parked not far behind them. A policeman was getting out of the police car, pointing his baton at the two of them and shouting. When Chi saw the policeman, he quickly stood up. Mr. Policeman, what's the matter? The policeman walked to Chi side. At this time, another 3 policemen got out of the police car. The policeman who shouted at Chi looked like he was in his 20s. He looked at Chi and then looked at Wenting, who was sitting on the ground with a bad expression. He snorted coldly. It's so early in the morning and it's so cold. What are you doing? Chi was stunned for a moment. I was walking with my friend on the road. She's a little uncomfortable, so I sat down to rest for a while. The policeman looked at Chi in confusion. When his eyes returned to Wenting, he could no longer look away. After completing the last transformation of the Ultralisk relic, Wenting became more beautiful than before. Although her body was a little weak now, it still couldn't hide her refined temperament. Not to mention the young policeman in front of her, even if it was any normal person, they would probably be attracted by her beauty. Is she your girlfriend? The policeman continued to ask. Chi nodded and said, yes. Chapter 103. Chi helplessly handed over his ID card and said, I don't have a job. I'm currently unemployed. The police looked at Chi's ID card and then looked at Wenting. Let's go. Follow us to the police station. Chi was slightly angry. Why are we going to the police station? I didn't break the law. The police snorted and said, now I'm suspecting you of kidnapping a woman. Let's go. Get in the car. Do you want me to handcuff you? Bullsh *T. You're the one who King kidnapped a woman. What evidence do you have? Chi was furious. Not to mention that he was now the king of Zodiac, Kirin. Even if he was the ruffian from before, he wouldn't be able to tolerate such a false accusation. The police said disdainfully, you look ordinary and dress ordinary. This lady is obviously not the same kind of person as you. You don't even have a job. How could she be your girlfriend? Before these doubts are solved, you have to go to the police station with us. Of course, if this lady can wake up and testify for you, it's fine too. Wenting was now in the state of cultivation. It was not that easy for her to wake up. Chi said, you're obviously framing me. You're simply a dog looking down on me. The police's eyes were burning with anger. Who are you calling a dog? Chi stared at him disdainfully and said, I'm talking about you. What's wrong? He definitely couldn't let the police take him and Wenting away. Wenting was most afraid of being disturbed when she was in the state of cultivation. What made Chi depressed was that he had lost the ability of Kirin. These police looked like criminal police and they all had guns. The diamond badge that General G gave him was still in the Kirin bead. Without Wenting's help, he couldn't take it out at all. For a moment, he couldn't help but be in a dilemma. How should he deal with the situation in front of him? The policeman heard Chi use insulting words and immediately took out the handcuff. He grabbed Chi's wrist with a simple grappling motion. However, he only grabbed an empty sleeve. Only then did he realize that Chi did not have a right arm. Although Chi had lost his thundercloud force, he still had some foundation. He turned his body, lowered his right shoulder slightly, and hit the policeman's chest. The young policeman was inexperienced, so he was pushed back a few steps and almost fell to the ground. Chi said coldly, I'll make a call now and ask someone to come over and testify for me. The young policeman was furious when Chi rebuked him. What are you talking about? How dare you attack a police officer? Let's capture him first. When the other policemen saw that their companions were at a disadvantage, they immediately rushed up without hesitation. They did not take out their pistols. However, the electric batons with electric sparks had already surrounded them, and the young policeman who was pushed back by Chi Yu walked toward Wen-Ting. Obviously, he wanted to take Wen-Ting away with him. The situation at this time suddenly made Chi Yu anxious. Without thundercloud force, how could he deal with 3 high-voltage electric batons? He really felt the sadness of losing his ability. Just a few ordinary policemen had forced him into such a situation. The flames of anger burned in his chest. He ignored the 3 policemen who surrounded him and rushed directly to the policeman who had been pushed away by him. "You still dare to resist." The 3 electric batons hit Chi Yu's back almost at the same time. However, to the policeman's surprise, Chi Yu's original position did not change. He was not affected by the batons at all. He just flashed and stood in front of the young policeman. Although he only had one left hand, Kieran's skills were not ordinary. With a simple step, Kieran had already circled to the most unexpected position of the young policeman. In anger, Chi Yu's left fist burst out the energy of his whole body in a short distance, and a heavy punch hit the policeman's ribs. The ribs were a vital point. If the strength was enough, it could kill people. With a scream, the policeman was immediately knocked to the ground by Chi Yu's punch. He covered his ribs with his hands and could not get up. Chi Yu straightened his chest and faced the other 3 policemen. At this time, the 3 policemen were surprised to find that the electric batons in their hands had lost all the electricity. Think about it, even the huge thundercloud force was emptied by the ultimate Kieran's arm. Chi Yu's body was like a huge energy vacuum cleaner. Although the electric current in the electric baton was very strong, it was immediately swallowed by Chi Yu's body when it touched his body. Unfortunately, this ordinary electric current could not play the role of replenishing energy for Chi Yu. As it was swallowed, it immediately dissipated into the air. "This kid is a little strange. Everyone, be careful." A slightly older policeman cautiously took out his gun, and the other 2 policemen separated to the side. For a moment, 3 black muzzles were pointed at Chi Yu at the same time. Chi Yu was not afraid at all. He said faintly, "If you dare to shoot, then you will definitely regret your actions today. If you are smart, let me make a call now. I think the misunderstanding will be very easy to resolve." The older policeman walked to the policeman who was knocked down by Chi Yu. He found that his companion had fainted. He looked at Chi Yu and said, "Whether what happened before was a misunderstanding or not, your crime of assaulting a police officer is now established. If you don't want to be shot, cooperate with us and handcuff yourself first." As he spoke, he threw a bright handcuff in front of Chi Yu. Looking at the handcuff, Chi Yu's gaze became a little scary. "Where do you want me to handcuff myself? I only have one hand." The policeman was obviously very experienced. He pointed to a slender small tree next to him and said, "Then handcuff yourself to the tree. We will give you a chance to explain, but you must wait until we return to the police station." The anger in Chi Yu's heart at this time could no longer be described with words. He was really depressed to be entangled by these policemen. In the past, he might be able to resist bullets, but now he was not much different from an ordinary person. At most, his body was a little stronger. Without the protection of thundercloud force, how could he resist bullets? Just as Chi Yu hesitated and did not know what to do, there was a shrill siren. Another police car drove over. The police car quickly stopped behind the previous police car. This was a police car that had been converted from a German car. It was obviously much more advanced than the previous one. The door opened and a person got out of the car. "What happened?" A pleasant voice sounded. When Chi Yu looked up and saw the person in front of him, he could not help but be completely stunned. "Captain, we received a report from a truck driver that there was a monster with wings nearby. When we passed by here, we saw this guy with a beautiful lady. It was a little strange, so we came up to question him. Who knew that he would actually attack a police officer? Yang Li has been knocked out by him. You came at the right time. We were just about to take him back for interrogation." The person who got out of the car was also a police officer. From the stars on her shoulder, it could be seen that her position was much higher than the ordinary police officers before. Her neat police uniform and proper police hat made her look valiant and valiant. She looked like a domineering flower in the movies. The policewoman was very tall. Although the color of the police uniform was very dark, it still could not hide her impressive figure. When Chiyu saw her clearly, he was completely stunned. When the policewoman saw him, her reaction was even more intense. She almost rushed in front of Chiyu and said hoarsely, You're not dead?" The policewoman who was called Captain was no other than Lu Xiangbing from the Covenant of Darkness, whom he had not seen for a long time. Chiyu shook his head helplessly and said, "Do you really want me to die, Miss Lu?" Lu Xiangbing's eyes lost some of the wildness from before, but were now filled with a sense of righteousness. Her body uncontrollably trembled violently as she looked at Chiyu. Her eyes revealed extremely complicated emotions, and she did not know what to say for a moment. Suddenly, her gaze fell on Chiyu's empty right sleeve. She said in surprise, "Where's your arm? Why is your right arm missing?" Chiyu said indifferently, "Miss Lu, shouldn't you first solve the problem in front of you before asking me other questions?" Only then did Lu Xiangbing realize that there were other people beside her. She waved her hand and said, "You guys go first. I'll take care of things here." The slightly older policeman hesitated for a moment and said, "But, Captain, this guy is very dangerous. Moreover, Yang Li has already been knocked out by him. You can't ignore the public for personal reasons." Lu Xiangbing snorted coldly, "Are you guys joking? If he wanted to touch you guys would have gone to hell long ago. Leave immediately. I'll take responsibility for this matter. If there are any consequences, I'll bear it alone." The three policemen who were still conscious were subordinates after all. They did not dare to say anything more. They brought the unconscious policemen to their cars and left. Hearing the siren of the police cars driving away, Chiyu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He thought to himself, luckily Lu Xiangbing arrived in time. Otherwise, the situation today would not have been easy to resolve. Lu Xiangbing looked at Wenting, who was still meditating, and said, "What's wrong with you? Where's your right arm?" Chiyu sighed and said, "Come, let's sit down and talk." As he spoke, he sat down beside Wenting. Lu Xiangbing also sat down. Her eyes were full of doubt. Chiyu said, "Do you remember the purpose of the Dark Council coming to Yanhuang?" When Lu Xiangbing suddenly heard the words Dark Council, his body trembled uncontrollably. He nodded and said, "I remember. Could it be them?" Chiyu shook his head and said, "Although the Dark Council is strong, they are not strong enough to make me lose my right arm. The reason why I became like this is because of their mission. In order to fight against a strong enemy, I became like this. This is my friend. He's resting here because his energy was depleted. Fortunately, you appeared in time. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know how to deal with those policemen." Lu Xiangbing asked doubtfully, "With your strength, would you be afraid of the police?" For some reason, in front of Lu Xiangbing, Chiyu had no intention of hiding anything. He said indifferently, "If I was still the Chiyu of the past, do you think I would have waited for you to arrive? Your subordinates would have long been lying on the ground. Can't you feel that I no longer have any energy waves on my body?" Lu Xiangbing was shocked. She could indeed feel that there were no strong energy waves on Chiyu's body. Previously, she thought that Chiyu's ability had reached the realm of returning to one's natural state, so he could hide his energy aura. Now that she heard what he said, she couldn't help but be shocked. The way she looked at Chiyu changed. Chiyu smiled and said, "Don't worry. I lost my energy because I lost my right arm. It has nothing to do with you. The truck driver that the policeman said reported the incident was done by my friend. The driver fell asleep and almost fell off the bridge. That was why we saved him. I didn't expect him to report the incident. However, I'm also very curious. How did you suddenly become a policeman?" Lu Xiangbing didn't ask too much about Qi Yu's energy. She lowered her head and said, "Can you first tell me why you didn't die? I went to the roof to look for you, but there were only traces of blood." Qi Yu smiled and said, "Why? Are you planning to kill me again?" Lu Xiangbing suddenly raised her head and looked at Qi Yu. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say it. Her gaze became even more complicated. Qi Yu said, "At that time, even I thought that I was done for. My central nervous system was destroyed, and my body was seriously injured. However, I was indeed lucky. Before we met, my strength had a breakthrough, and I learned a new ability to heal myself. I stayed on the roof for a night, and finally struggled back from the edge of death." Lu Xiangbing couldn't help but ask, "Since your self-healing ability is so strong, why did you lose all your strength now?" Qi Yu sighed and said, "This is different. It's more troublesome to explain. Anyway, what was lost was lost. What about you? How did you become a policeman?" Lu Xiangbing said, "Maybe it's God's arrangement. That day, after I left the roof, my heart was already in despair. At that time, I really didn't know what to do. I have the blood of Yan Huang in my body. At that time, I thought that I was going to die, but even if I died, I didn't want to go back to the Dark Parliament, the place that gave me nightmares. I could only wander on the road alone. When I walked to a place that I can't even remember the name of, I suddenly saw a recruitment notice for the society. It said that there was a lack of police force in the capital, and they were recruiting people who were good at fighting. They didn't need to ask about my education. I walked in with a glimmer of hope. It's funny now that I think about it. During the interview, none of them believed that I could become a policeman." Qi Yu said with a smile, "Then you proved everything with your strength, right? With Lu Xiangbing's ability, even the best special forces soldier might not be her match. She had the speed of a leopard, and with the ability that she had been through harsh training since young, how could an ordinary policeman compare to her?" Lu Xiangbing nodded and said, "Yes, in the combat test, I defeated everyone, including the examiner. So, I was finally hired." Qi Yu said doubtfully, "That's possible. You don't have a mainland ID. Why would they dare to hire you?" Lu Xiangbing said indifferently, "I have a ID. Before coming to Yan Huang to work for the Dark Parliament, because I have the blood of Yan Huang in my body, the Dark Parliament used special channels to forge a seamless identity for me. With my identity document and my strength, I became a police officer in Yan Huang. After that, with the completion of a few special missions, I became the captain of this branch's criminal investigation team. Although my qualifications were not enough, my strength made the higher-ups look at me in a new light, and they made an exception to promote me." Qi Yu laughed. "That's interesting. In the past, even if you beat me to death, I would never have thought that you would become a policeman." Lu Xiangbing lowered her head again. "Qi Yu, do you hate me?" Qi Yu smiled and said, "If I hated you, do you think I would tell you that I lost my ability? Now, you probably don't think that I am still lying to you. I think you should have understood everything after so much time has passed." Lu Xiangbing nodded painfully. "I know that saying sorry is useless, but Qi Yu, at that time, Qi Yu sighed softly and said, "I don't blame you. I was too careless and neglected your feelings. If it were anyone else, they would also think that I am a pervert. After all, that method of curing the poison was too shocking. I have never blamed you. You are a pitiful person. Xiangbing, cherish the life you have now. Since you have left the Dark Parliament, from now on, don't think about what happened in the past. Just treat it as you have gotten a new life. Make good use of this opportunity. I think you will definitely get the happiness you deserve." Lu Xiangbing's shoulders shook slightly. Why do you treat me so well? I almost killed you. But you don't hate me at all. Why? Qi Yu, tell me why." The ground in front of her was already somewhat moist from her sparkling tears. Qi Yu smiled and said, "Even I don't know why. Don't think that I am a good person. If you were a man, perhaps I would have already killed you. I used to be a hooligan, a ruffian. My immunity towards beautiful women has always been very weak. Naturally, I am much more tolerant. Lu Xiangbing suddenly raised her head and looked at Qiyu. No, you are not that kind of person. Definitely not. Qiyu shrugged and said, You see, I told you the truth, but you did not believe me. I am not a good person in the first place. There is no need to hide it. Of course, your experience has indeed moved me. I have said that, like you, I am also an orphan. We are the same. We all have our own sad stories. What is there to blame? The past is in the past. You don't have to think too much about it. Actually, I have also looked for you, but I did not disappear. Seeing that you have become a police officer, I am really happy for you. Live well. Yan Huang is a place suitable for you. Lu Xiangbing looked at Qiyu with teary eyes and murmured, You gave me a new life this time. But can I really leave the Dark Parliament? As long as they want to, they will definitely find me. Even I find it strange that after so long, they still have not come to find me. Qiyu said, What is so strange about that? The Dark Parliament has indeed sent many experts this time, but they have all returned in failure. Perhaps you do not know, but for that so-called sacred source, the Vatican has sent even more experts than you. A cardinal led 5 red-robed archbishops, as well as a holy knight and a knight of light. You do not have to worry about the Dark Parliament. I will help you settle it. You? How are you going to help me? You mean to tell me that the Dark Parliament has suffered heavy losses in Yan Huang this time, and can't care about me now? Lu Xiangbing's tone was tinged with surprise. She really liked her current life, especially since so much time had passed, and she had gotten used to everything now. She had always been afraid that the Dark Parliament would find her again. She knew very well how the Dark Parliament dealt with traitors. Qiyu said, You can understand it that way. Do you know Klinsmann? Lu Xiangbing's body trembled. Of course I do. He is one of the 13 Dark Parliament members, and also the strongest vampire. He controls the most powerful family among the vampires. He is known as the top expert of the blood race. Qiyu said, This person has already returned to the Dark Parliament. I still have some relations with him. I will ask him to help settle this matter later, so that the Dark Parliament will not pursue your matter. You know Prince Klinsmann? But aren't you, Ming Ming, going against the Dark Parliament? Lu Xiangbing's eyes were filled with disbelief. Qiyu frowned. You have already left the Dark Parliament. Don't use the term us anymore. I can only say that there are no eternal enemies in this world. Not everyone in the Dark Parliament is bad. Aren't you an exception? Lu Xiangbing laughed bitterly. If you knew how much blood my hands are stained with, I wonder if you would still say that. Qiyu sighed. The past is the past. You are an assassin created by the Dark Parliament. Do you think you have a choice? The fact that you've made it this far is proof of the innocence in your heart. Since that is the case, why can't you give yourself a chance? Don't worry. I will definitely help you with this matter. There's an old saying in Yanhuang, if you help someone, help them all the way. Lu Xiangbing fell silent. She gripped her police uniform with both hands, and her aura was clearly unstable. Qiyu, I owe you. Not because you want to help me solve my problems. I owe you 2 lives. One is yours, and the other is mine. Back then, you saved me and cured me of the poison. But I repaid your kindness with ingratitude and almost killed you. I will forever owe you these 2 lives. No matter what you want me to do, just say the word. I will definitely do it, even if it is against my will. Qiyu smiled. Then I still lack a wife. Can you be my wife? Are you willing to have me? You want someone like me who used to belong to the darkness? Lu Xiangbing looked straight at Qiyu. Why not? No one is born to belong to the darkness. I told you, you didn't do it willingly. But what I said just now was really just a joke. You are so beautiful, and I am already a cripple. Why should I marry you? Besides, you might have guessed that I have more than one wife. I don't care. I don't care about anything. I owe you. I am willing to use my whole life to repay you. The premise is that you are willing to have me. Lu Xiangbing looked at Qi Yu without any intention of backing down. This. Xiangbing, it seems that you still don't understand love. How can true love be repaid with money? Do you think this is the old society? This is unfair to you. Besides, I didn't do anything for you. Although I cured you of the poison, you also let me experience the most wonderful pleasure of a man. We don't owe each other anything. Lu Xiangbing's face reddened when she heard Qi Yu mention a man's greatest pleasure. I won't change my mind once I've decided on something. You just need to tell me if you're willing to have me or not. You were the one who said that you wanted me to be your wife. Your words are like spilled water. You can't regret it. To be honest, Xiangbing, if a beauty like you is willing to be my wife, why wouldn't I be willing? But I can't even protect myself now, let alone others. I will leave the capital in a few days. I will travel around the country to find a way to recover my strength. That's good. After I recover, we can discuss this again, okay? Right now, I really don't have the mood to talk about this. I think you can understand the pain of losing all my energy. Xiangbing's stubborn gaze softened. Okay, I believe that you will definitely recover. Even if you really can't recover, you must return to the capital. I will wait for you. If you don't come back for a day, I will wait for a day. If you don't come back for a year, I will wait for a year. If you don't come back for a lifetime, I will wait for you for a lifetime. Ugh. This was really a trap of his own making. It seemed that she wasn't easy to fool. Qi Yu thought to himself. He did have a good impression of Lu Xiangbing. But he already had 3 wives. Before he left, Jida had just reminded him. Moreover, his body was in such a condition. How could he give Lu Xiangbing any guarantee? He nodded helplessly. Xiangbing, I will definitely come back. But you don't need to wait for me. Relationships are fated. At least, we are friends. Lu Xiangbing looked at Qi Yu. The complicated look in her eyes gradually disappeared. She said dreamily, Qi Yu, do you know? After I found out that the poison in my body had been cured, my heart was in so much pain. You are the only man that I have ever liked in my life. After the intense hatred I had for you, I found out that my understanding of you was completely wrong. My heart was in so much pain. At that time, I wanted to immediately follow you to the underworld. But every time I thought of what you said to me on the rooftop, I told myself to be strong and live on. I always hoped that you would be lucky because I didn't find your corpse. I still hoped that you would be alive. But I know the condition of the central nervous system very well. So, in my subconscious, I still thought that you were dead. Now, you have finally appeared in front of me again. I don't know what romance is, but I am not as ignorant as you said. I know what I am thinking. I love you. Really. When you saved me on the rooftop and let me go again, I had already fallen in love with you. Your strength and your tolerance are incomparable to the men I used to know. I won't say anything else, but I can tell you with certainty that I will definitely wait for you. I will wait for you to recover. Qi Yu looked at Lu Xiangbing blankly. At this moment, he didn't know what to say. Lu Xiangbing suddenly stood up as if she had made a decision. She said to Qi Yu, wait here for a moment. I will be back soon. With both feet on the ground, she once again displayed the speed of a cheetah in front of Qi Yu. Almost in a flash, she got into the car that she drove when she came. With the roar of the engine, the car shot out like an arrow. Qi Yu watched Lu Xiangbing leave in a daze. He suddenly felt very relaxed. Lu Xiangbing finally understood his good intentions. The misunderstanding was completely resolved. This made Qi Yu feel very good. However, the problem that followed was also presented in front of him. She said that she would wait for him for the rest of his life. How could he explain this to Ryue and the others in the future? The battle between him and Ryue was because of Lu Xiangbing. Forget it, there is no use thinking about it now. It is better to wait for my strength to recover first. When faced with a problem that was difficult to solve, Chi Yu did not choose to escape. Instead, he automatically ignored it. After all, it was not a fatal problem. He observed Wenting. Wenting was still cultivating. Her face had become much rosier. He estimated that she would wake up after a period of time when the energy in her body returned to normal. Lu Xiangbing did not let Chi Yu wait for too long. In just a short while, her car sped out along with the piercing sound of a police siren. The brakes screeched as the speeding police car came to an abrupt stop. Even Chi Yu, who had raced before, could not help but feel apprehensive at the sudden stop. He thought to himself, "This pitiful car is really a tragedy for Xiangbing to see." In a flash, Lu Xiangbing had returned to Chi Yu's side. Her strength was indeed not weak. There was no sign of her breathing, but the police uniform on her body looked a little messy. Before Chi Yu could ask her what she was going to do, Lu Xiangbing had already taken off her police cap. Her slightly curly hair draped over her shoulders. The current her looked like a Barbie doll, her livelier body exuding an invisible charm. Lu Xiangbing took out a rubber band from somewhere. She quickly combed her hair into a ponytail, making herself look more refreshing. Lu Xiangbing. Just as Chi Yu called out her name, she interrupted him. "Take it off. There should be enough time before your friend wakes up." Lu Xiangbing looked at Chi Yu and said with a blush, "Ah? Take it off?" Chi Yu suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Chapter 104. This. What are you going to do? Chi Yu looked at her in surprise. Lu Xiangbing smiled and said, "Of course I'm going to do what men like to do. You are going to leave soon, so I have to leave something for you to remember in case you forget about me." "No, that's not good. Xiangbing, don't be rash. Oh my God, what are girls thinking these days?" Chi Yu was already confused. He still had Wenting by his side. Lu Xiangbing's face revealed a faint smile. "Do you want me to force you? Don't forget, you no longer have the ability you used to have. It is very easy for me to subdue you." "Xiangbing, calm down." Chi Yu still tried to persuade him. However, Lu Xiangbing was obviously impatient. Without waiting for Chi Yu to continue, her figure flashed and appeared in front of Chi Yu. Her right hand moved like lightning and tapped on Chi Yu's shoulder. A wave of energy immediately entered his body. Although Chi Yu's body could absorb energy from the outside world, this attack only sealed his body's habitual movement. It did not enter his meridians, and immediately made Chi Yu lose his ability to move. Lu Xiangbing hesitated for a moment, then tapped on Chi Yu's throat again, making Chi Yu unable to even speak. Her fingers were a little cold, and it felt like she was very nervous. Gently, Lu Xiangbing undid Chi Yu's belt with jerky movements. Her pretty face was slightly red as she looked at him and said firmly, "I will definitely make you remember me forever." Her hands were slightly trembling as she pulled down Chi Yu's pants. Chi Yu only felt a chill on his lower body. He thought to himself, "It's over. Am I going to be raped by a woman? Ting Ting, please don't wake up now." At this moment, he was actually hoping that Lu Xiangbing would act faster. As long as Wenting didn't see it, being raped by a beautiful woman seemed to be a good thing. Lu Xiangbing hesitated for a moment, as if he had thought of something. He carried Chi Yu and leaped lightly into the dense forest by the roadside. Although this place was not far from the airport, with the cover of the trees, it would not be easy to be discovered. Chi Yu saw that Lu Xiangbing's face was getting redder and redder. Under the influence of his imagination, his body had already reacted. Xiangbing chuckled. "You still say you don't want to? Your body has already betrayed you." Her cold hands held onto Chi Yu's lower body. Although Chi Yu could not speak, the sudden stimulation still made him let out a short moan from his nose. Lu Xiangbing smiled. "Do you know what I did just now? You'll never guess." As she spoke, she took out a small bag from the pocket of her police uniform. The packaging looked very exquisite. Chi Yu had never seen this kind of packaging before. Because Lu Xiangbing was gently shaking it, he could not see the words on it clearly. You are a man, so you definitely don't know what this is. But you will know soon. As she spoke, Lu Xiangbing tore open the paper bag. She raised her head and poured something into her mouth. Qiyu vaguely saw that it was some small particles. He was very confused. Did Lu Xiangbing eat aphrodisiac? The possibility of this was not high. Besides, he had seen the packaging of aphrodisiac before. Those Spanish flies and the like did not have such packaging. Could it be a new product? Lu Xiangbing shut her mouth and looked deeply at Qiyu. She blushed and slowly lowered her head. Faint. This word appeared in Qiyu's mind. She actually did the same thing as Ryue. Could it be that she also wanted to give me a blowjob? Looking at Lu Xiangbing's police uniform, Qiyu suddenly had a strong feeling in his heart. His guess was correct, but it was not completely correct. When his high-spirited body, which was slightly cold from the cold wind, was swallowed into Lu Xiangbing's mouth, a wave of pain that was not very strong suddenly exploded around his firm body. The pain was not strong, but it was very stimulating. His body, which had its joints sealed, could not help but tremble violently. At this moment, Qiyu finally understood what Lu Xiangbing just poured into his mouth. That was a popping candy. It was a special kind of candy. When eaten, it would emit a stimulating feeling under the effect of baking soda, and it could last for a long time. Lu Xiangbing's method of swallowing the popping candy had a very fitting description: desert storm. Under the double stimulation of a soft tongue and popping candy, which man wouldn't go crazy for it? Compared to Ryue's crystal love, desert storm was much more stimulating. Although it did not have the soft feeling of crystal love, it had a different kind of charm. Without experiencing that kind of stimulation, it was hard to imagine the effect of desert storm. In the intense stimulation, every slight movement of Lu Xiangbing would cause Qiyu's body to tremble violently. All the pores on his body opened up, and his face was already red. The strong sensation in his lower body was constantly sending signals of danger to his brain. Lu Xiangbing's movements gradually sped up, and the effect of the popping candy also reached its peak. Uniform temptation plus desert storm. No matter how good Qiyu was in this aspect, under such a series of stimulation, he could not last any longer. When the effect of the popping candy finally disappeared, his lower body had become even more sensitive due to the intense stimulation from before. Xiangbing's movements were obviously more practiced than the last time on the rooftop. She closed her eyes and used all kinds of clever movements to tease Qiyu with a red face. Qiyu's body trembled more and more. Half an hour had passed. He did not even need to release it in advance. His body could no longer withstand the continuous stimulation. The strong ejaculation was accompanied by even more violent spasms. Qiyu had indeed inherited Kiran's glorious tradition in this aspect. This was already the third ejaculation in less than a day, but it was still of quality and quantity, no less than the previous 2 times. Xiangbing's little hands moved up and down. Her little mouth could no longer contain all the essence, and some had already dripped down the corner of her mouth to the ground. After knowing that the last bit of Qiyu's essence had been completely extracted, Xiangbing separated from his body and spat out the essence in her mouth to the side. She then poked twice on Qiyu's body, removing the restriction on him. Qiyu looked at Xiangbing, gasping for breath. The intense state from before had not been completely released. The full release made his heart tremble. This was uniform temptation plus desert storm. What are you looking at? Xiangbing rolled her eyes at Qiyu. She took out a tissue from her pocket and wiped her little mouth. Qiyu chuckled. I'm watching my thousands of descendants disappear. Pfft, you said you didn't want it before, but you were so excited just now. Xiangbing rolled her eyes at Qiyu. Qiyu smiled bitterly. I am a normal man. This body is not controlled by my thoughts. Xiangbing, why do you have to do this? I will definitely come back. Xiangbing's gaze softened. In my heart, I will always owe you. Last time, when you were at the peak of your bliss, I almost sent you to hell. I almost sent you to hell, so this is my compensation to you. Put on your clothes first. Chiyu stood up. It was a little difficult for him to put on his pants with one hand. Shang Bing came to his side like a gentle wife and helped him put his pants back on. She asked in a low voice, "Are you cold?" Chiyu shook his head. "How can I be cold? I am extremely hot." Shang Bing opened her arms and hugged Chiyu's waist tightly. She pressed her pretty face against his shoulder. "Don't forget me, really. Don't forget me. Silly girl. You are the first person to let me know what it feels like to be a woman. How can I forget you?" "Really? Of course." Chiyu stroked her long wavy hair and smelled the faint fragrance on her body. The cold appearance of Shang Bing and Ryue were somewhat similar. Their hearts were both so hot. "I have to go. I still have a mission to carry out. You can go. This is my phone number. When you come back, you must call me." While speaking, Shang Bing casually cut off a piece of bark from the tree beside her. Her fingers trembled as she left a string of numbers on the bark. Then, she carefully put it into Chiyu's pocket. "I will. If I do anything, I will inform you immediately. I estimate it will be around July. This time, it is my only hope. I will definitely try my best to restore my strength. I will call you later and leave my phone number with you. If someone from the Dark Parliament comes looking for trouble, you can call me. If I can't deal with it in time, you can go to the Dragonfield courtyard next to the airport. My friends are all there. With them around, the Dark Parliament won't dare to do anything." Shang Bing nodded. At this moment, a police siren sounded. Both of them looked towards the road at the same time and saw a police car of the same model as Shang Bing stopped. The car door opened immediately and a person jumped out. It was a handsome man who looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had broad shoulders. His short hair was like steel needles and the lines of his face were very distinct. At first glance, one could tell that he was the type of man of iron. His police uniform was completely stretched out by the muscles underneath. Just by standing there, he gave off a feeling that he was different from ordinary people. His sharp eyes almost immediately saw Chiyu and Lu Shangbing hugging each other the moment he got out of the car. The light in his eyes suddenly became hazy. Shangbing. The man had already jumped to the edge of the forest. He was also wearing a police uniform. Compared to Shangbing, it seemed that his position was slightly higher. Shangbing glanced at Chiyu. Chiyu asked, "Is he your colleague?" Shangbing nodded and said, "He is also my current boyfriend." Boyfriend? Chiyu was surprised and let go of Shangbing's hand. "Who is he?" The burly policeman looked at Chiyu coldly. His fists were already clenched and his body was emitting an unfriendly aura. Lu Shangbing looked at Chiyu and said, "Do you trust me?" Chiyu nodded. Lu Shangbing showed a trace of a smile on her face. "All right then, I will deal with everything." As she spoke, she took a step forward and said to the man, "Li Yang, let's break up." Li Yang looked at her in a daze. "Why? Because of him?" He pointed his finger at Chiyu without any hesitation. Shangbing nodded and said, "He is the person I have always loved. In the past, I thought he was already dead, so I agreed to your pursuit. But now that he is still alive, it is time for us to end things." Li Yang's sword-like eyebrows were almost vertical. "The reason why you said that you would consider for a year before deciding whether or not to accept me was also because of him." Shangbing nodded firmly and said, "That's right. Now that I have finally found him, it is impossible between us. If you feel that I have hurt you, I can only say that I am sorry." Chiyu looked at Shangbing from the side and thought to himself, people who come out of the Dark Parliament are indeed different. This was definitely a swift and decisive approach. From the conversation between the two, he had a rough idea. This policeman named Li Yang obviously liked Shangbing a lot. Although Shangbing had agreed to his pursuit, they had not really started dating. Since she wanted to solve it herself, then he would let her solve it. Li Yang's gaze was like a poisonous snake as it swept across Qi Yu's body. I did not expect that you would actually choose such a person over me. What is so bad about me? Which part of me is not good enough for you? Shang Bing shook her head and said, You are very good, it is my bad. Your father is the deputy minister of the Ministry of Public Security, but you did not rely on your father's connections. You relied on your own ability to get to where you are now and become the youngest and most promising person in the public security system. I admire you very much, but matters of the heart cannot be forced. Even if you are many times better than him in everything, I will still choose him. There is no turning back. So, please give up. Li Yang roared angrily, No, I am not resigned. I really am not resigned. Kid, what is your name? What right do you have to pursue Shang Bing? Without waiting for Qi Yu to reply, Shang Bing had already taken a step and stood between Qi Yu and Li Yang. It is not him who is pursuing me, it is me who is pursuing him. Shang Bing, what did you say? Li Yang looked at her in a daze. Shang Bing repeated, I said, it is not him who is pursuing me, it is me who is pursuing him. Are you satisfied now? No, this is not possible. He looks so ordinary and even lacks an arm. How could you like such a person? Does he have some background? No, I don't believe it. Shang Bing, give me a reason. Lu Shang Bing said indifferently, Love does not need to be in a book. If you really want, I can only say that he is better than you in every aspect. Are you satisfied now? Li Yang, I do not want to hurt you, but it is better to get the pain over with. Forget about me, in this world, there are many girls better than me. No, I only want you. You said that he is better than me in every aspect. I do not believe it. Kid, if you are a man, don't hide behind a woman. Come out, let us make things clear. Li Yang's target turned to Qi Yu. Qi Yu stretched out his left hand and grabbed Shang Bing's shoulder. Shang Bing, let me do it. I think it is better for me to solve this problem. Shang Bing hesitated for a moment. But now you? Li Yang is very strong. He has today's status in the city because of his own strength. In the current public security system, he is the only one who can defeat me. Hearing Shang Bing's words, Qi Yu could not help but be shocked. He knew Lu Shang Bing's strength very well. In the past, he naturally would not put this man called Li Yang in his eyes, but now it was different. Without the support of Thundercloud Force, how could he be a match for Li Yang? However, as a man, it is impossible for him to retreat in this situation. Qi Yu did not even think. He walked past Shang Bing and stood half a meter away from Li Yang. Who do you think you are? Li Yang looked at Qi Yu, who was half a head taller than him in front of him. In terms of physique, the current Qi Yu was not inferior to Li Yang at all. They were both broad shoulders and broad back, but Li Yang's muscles were not as exaggerated as Li Yang's. Qi Yu turned his head to look at Shang Bing and said to his chest, Shang Bing, can I borrow your energy? Shang Bing raised his right hand in front of Qi Yu. Qi Yu took her hand and pressed it on the Kirin pearl in front of his chest. Although Shang Bing's energy and hers did not come from the same source, Shang Bing's wind attribute energy, with the help of Qi Yu's Kirin bloodline, could still activate the Kirin pearl. A faint green light lit up, and a brocade box appeared in Qi Yu's palm. Qi Yu stared back at Li Yang and said, just based on this, if you have the ability, go and fight for the same, then you have the qualifications to compete with me. As he spoke, he slowly opened the brocade box in his hand. This brocade box was the Diamond Guardian emblem that General Ji Zhongming had given her. In fact, even Qi Yu did not see what this emblem looked like. When the velvet brocade box slowly opened, a faint treasure light immediately emitted from the box. It was a rectangular card, just like a magnetic card. However, it was not made of plastic. It was made of the purest platinum, and there were a total of 108 blue diamonds embedded on it. The dazzling diamonds were embedded in the center of the card to form the national emblem. At the top, there were 2 words carved out of rubies, especially eye-catching. That was Chi Yu's name. Comparing money? I don't believe that Shang Bing will give up on me for money. Li Yang clearly did not see what was in the box. Chi Yu took out the platinum diamond card and said indifferently, "Look carefully before you speak." At this moment, Li Yang could clearly see that there was also a national emblem on the other side of the card. However, the national emblem was completely embedded with transparent diamond. The card flipped in Chi Yu's fingers gently. In the shining treasure light, Li Yang finally saw the imprint on the corner of the card that made his blood turn cold. Diamond emblem, this is the highest diamond emblem in the country? No, how is this possible? Li Yang subconsciously took 2 steps back and looked at Chi Yu in shock. Chi Yu smiled indifferently and said, "Why is it not possible? Can't I have it?" No, this is impossible. I don't believe it." Li Yang looked at the diamond emblem in Chi Yu's hand. Although he said he did not believe it, his eyes had already betrayed him. Chi Yu sighed and said, "Since you are the most outstanding young talent in the public security system, then you should know about the Taklamakan." Taklamakan? You mean the 3 gates of the underground prison? Could it be? A month ago I used a month to leave there. Chi Yu looked at Li Yang quietly. As long as the other party was smart enough, he would understand what he meant. Then, he would understand what he meant. Chi Yu was not afraid of his opponent. Although it had lost its energy, the month of training in the Taklamakan had brought him a lot of things. Previously, if it were not for the 3 pistols, he would not have been threatened by a few policemen. A month. Are you the legendary guy who walked out of hell? You entered the Taklamakan in the weakest state but left in the shortest time possible? The legend of the military. The winner of the diamond emblem? Li Yang's gaze had already changed. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten about the existence of Shang Bing. Chi Yu said indifferently, "It seems that you know a lot of things." "Yes, this is the diamond emblem. Now, do you still need me to explain anything?" "No need. The diamond emblem will not fall into the hands of others." Li Yang's emotions calmed down a lot. He took a deep look at Shang Bing and smiled self-mockingly. "You're right. He's better than me in everything. The owner of the Diamond Guardian Medal is the strongest guardian in the country. He is directly under the command of the president. Perhaps only a person like him is worthy of you. Your name is Chi Yu, right? Your name should be on the emblem." His gaze returned to Chi Yu. Chi Yu nodded and said, "Yes. Okay, I will remember your name. Tomorrow, I will resign and leave the public security system to go to the 3 gates of hell. If I can't pass the 3 gates, I will never come back. When I have a diamond emblem like you, I will definitely compete with you. If Shang Bing has not married you by then, I will definitely take her back." Chi Yu smiled indifferently and said, "I will wait for you. But as a man, do you need a woman's encouragement to make up your mind? The diamond emblem is only given to the guardians along the yellow dike. If you want to take Shang Bing back, then you will never be the recipient of Chen Wei's diamond emblem." Li Yang was stunned for a moment. He looked at Chi Yu and took a deep breath. "I understand. We will definitely meet again." As soon as he finished speaking, he bounced up and returned to his car. Just like how Shang Bing left earlier, he drove away as fast as lightning. Shang Bing took the diamond emblem from Chi Yu and said curiously, "This little card is so powerful. I know Li Yang too well. He is a very arrogant person, but he was scared away by a cursing card. This is unimaginable." Chi Yu smiled faintly and replied, "That's because you don't understand the significance of this medal. That's why you said that. Okay, you should go too. Don't delay your mission." Shang Bing looked at Chi Yu and said, "I will say it again, don't forget me. As long as you come back, I will give you the Desert Storm." After throwing down those words, her face flushed red as she leapt into the car by the roadside. She gave Chi Yu a deep look before starting her car and leaving. Lu Shangbing was not a person who could not let go. She knew that instead of asking him to stay, it was better for Chi Yu to come back to her on his own. Men always had things that they had to do. If the face of his woman could not understand this, how could it be possible for him to truly love her? As soon as Shang Bing left, Wen Ting's voice sounded beside Qi Yu. What is the desert storm? Ah, you are awake. Qi Yu turned around in a panic. Wen Ting's face was cold. Another one. How many women do you have? You are going to leave, and you are still flirting. No wonder you are the inheritor of Kiran's bloodline. Ting Ting, listen to me. It was a coincidence that I met Shang Bing. In fact, she is also a very pitiful woman. Wen Ting said impatiently, Tell me, you haven't told me what the desert storm is. Can I answer this question later? Qi Yu said awkwardly. Of course not. I want you to answer now. Are you going to tell me or not? Wen Ting did not relax at all. Okay, I surrender. I will tell you. The Desert Storm. It was the code name of the United States during the Gulf War. I don't think so. I can't explain it clearly. Wen Ting said doubtfully, Is that really the case? Then what did she mean when she said that she will return the Desert Storm to you when you come back? This means that when I come back, she will still accompany me to practice martial art. Yes, martial arts practice. Really? Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you? White lies did not count. Qi Yu secretly comforted himself. I will let you go this time. Let's go. My energy is almost recovered. It's just that my meridians are still a little uncomfortable. We better find a place to practice body fusion as soon as possible. If we encounter any trouble, we will be able to respond. I'll listen to you. It's about time. Let's go buy a car first and then find a place to practice. Qi Yu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Wen Ting continued to ask. Fortunately, she did not know the true meaning of the desert storm. Popping candy. Now that he thought of it, Qi Yu could not help but feel his blood boil. Qi Yu could not run away from a seafood feast. Although it was only breakfast, the two of them ate for more than an hour. With the financial guarantee of the diamond medal, Qi Yu was not afraid of spending money. The two of them actually ate thousands of yuan for breakfast. Wen Ting's requirements for food were indeed worse than Qi Yu's. She liked to eat from the bottom of her heart. After eating a ton of delicious food, the unhappiness in her heart disappeared. After all, she was Kiran's descendant. It was relatively easy for her to accept Kiran's flirtatious ways. Qi Yu, what car are we going to buy now? If it's an off-road vehicle, how about a BMW? I remember that the X5 is very good. Qi Yu shook his head and said, No, the BMW X5 is too focused on comfort. Its off-road ability is a little worse. It's not as good as the Volkswagen Touareg. The Touareg can wade at a depth of 600 millimeters. Its overall performance is very good, and the price is a little cheaper. If you're talking about cheap, I think the Toyota Prado is not bad. Qi Yu snorted in disdain. Far from it. Although the Sun Nation's technology is more advanced, their craftsmanship and quality are much worse. Moreover, as long as it's something from the Sun Nation, I will not consider it. I've already thought of what to buy. Is it the Touareg you mentioned just now? Wen Ting asked curiously. Qi Yu shook his head and said, No, it's not the Touareg. Although the Touareg is good, it's a little small. It's the same problem as the Porsche Cayenne. I've chosen the newly launched Audi Q7. It's big and powerful. It meets my requirements in every aspect. It's streamlined and beautiful, and the front is very domineering. I believe you will definitely like it. After my research, it's definitely the ultimate weapon to pick up girls. What? You still want to pick up girls? You? Ah. I accidentally blurted out the truth. Chapter 105. After driving for about 2 minutes, the taxi stopped. The two of them could see from the window that there was a very grand-looking car dealership on the side of the road. There were 4 circles on it. After paying the fare, Qi Yu pulled Wen Ting out of the taxi excitedly and said to himself, I'm finally going to have my own car. Haha. It had always been Chi Yu's dream to have a car he liked. His obsession with cars could be said to be second only to beautiful women. Even on their way to Yunnan, Chi Yu didn't forget to occasionally buy a car magazine to read. Chi Yu, did you bring your driver's license? Wen Ting asked. Ah? Driver's license? I never had that thing. I didn't have money before, so how could I take the test? But don't worry. With my driving skills, I can drive without a driver's license. Besides, I have a special pass. As he spoke, he took out the Diamond Guardian medal from his pocket and waved it in front of Wen Ting. Wen Ting muttered to herself, "Fortunately, I brought my driver's license." Chi Yu was so excited at this time that he didn't pay attention to what Wen Ting was saying. He pulled her and strode to the Audi dealership in front of him. Because it was still early, when they entered the dealership, there were only a few customers looking at cars. As soon as Chi Yu walked through the door, his eyes immediately lit up, just like Wen Ting who saw delicious food. From the position of the door, there were more than 10 sample cars in the entire exhibition hall. Each of them had the distinctive 4 circles of the Audi family logo. The one closest to Chi Yu and Wen Ting was an Audi A4 coupe. Extending to the side, there were Audi A6L, Audi TT, and Audi A8L. They were all luxury cars. However, Chi Yu's eyes quickly swept past these cars and looked directly at the innermost part of the exhibition hall. Compared with other Audi cars, it looked much taller and bigger. It was lying there, exuding a cold aura. Although it was only from the side, one could still clearly feel the strong aura exuding from it. "Excuse me, what type of car are you looking at? I can introduce to you." A gentle voice sounded beside Chi Yu and Wen Ting. When Chi Yu turned around, he saw a young girl in a dark blue uniform smiling at him and Wen Ting. If Chi Yu were to evaluate the young girl's appearance, he would say that it was around the level of eye-pleasing. However, her figure was really good. She was about 1.7 meters tall and looked very well proportioned. It was a pity that the uniform was tightly wrapped around her body except for her head, so Chi Yu's eyes didn't have many opportunities to take advantage of her. Chi Yu secretly thought that car dealers nowadays really didn't know how to do business. If the female sales representatives all wore revealing clothes, their sales would be booming. Wen Ting looked at Chi Yu with a smile. Making a hand gesture, Chi Yu said, "We're here to look at the Audi A7. Do you have it in stock? If you don't have it in stock, then forget it." A look of surprise flashed across the sales representative's eyes. However, she obviously had a lot of work experience, so she didn't have too much of a reaction. She smiled and said, "Sir, you came at the right time. The Q7 is a new model that we have on the market. We have it in stock now and we have all kinds of models. Please follow me over here. I can answer any questions you have." As she spoke, the sales representative made a hand gesture and led Chi Yu to the front of the huge Audi Q7. As they got closer, they could clearly feel the fierceness of the Audi Q7. The huge body and the domineering front face were all shocking. Wen Ting's eyes lit up and said, "It seems really good." Chi Yu smiled and said, "Of course, how could my eyes be wrong?" The sales representative explained in a professional manner, "The Audi Q7 is the 3rd generation of super SUV. It perfectly blends the advantages of a sedan and an off-road vehicle, and fully experiences this characteristic in the design." The extremely dynamic exterior design reflected its ultra-dynamic characteristics and surging off-road characteristics at the same time. The attention to detail is also the embodiment of the strong personality of the Audi Q7. Its front was decorated with an eye-catching single-frame grille, clearly hinting at the powerful engine hidden behind the grille. Coupled with the slender chrome-plated frame and rib structure, the entire grille formed a tripartite effect. The horizontal ribs were slightly protruding to emphasize the horizontal lines, and the vertical lines were slightly backward. On both sides of the grille, the wide headlights extended to the wheel covers, and the light tubes were clearly visible behind the transparent glass cover. In addition to the standard halogen lights, xenon headlights and dynamic adaptive turn signals were optional equipment. The unique V-shaped hood design highlighted the sporty characteristics of the Audi Q7, and the powerful bumper shape emphasized the other side of its energy and reliability. The lower part of the bumper used a contrasting color, thus creating a visual difference, and the choice of contrasting color paint clearly highlighted the versatility of the vehicle itself. The Audi Q7 showed a strong, powerful, agile, and slender appearance thanks to its length, width, and height ratio. Among its peers, its body proportion was second to none, and it was the most sporty. This proportion made the appearance of the Audi both harmonious and easy to attract attention. The high side circumference gave the body a strong appearance, and at the same time formed a sharp contrast with the smooth and sporty window area. The free and smooth surface of the body made the Audi Q7 extremely sculptural. Under the effect of light and shadow, the clear curves, hard straight lines, and jointing lines clearly outlined the concave and convex surface of the wheel profile. The wheel arches and towering shoulders showed elegant and dynamic lines, showing the sporty temperament of the Audi Q7. Even if it stopped in place, the Audi Q7 maintained a ready posture. Its front suspension was only 965 mm, and the threshold line extended to the rear of the car, clearly outlining the wheel profile. The smooth rising angle of the B-pillar harmoniously performed the transition from the hood to the roof. The roof line sloped down from the B-pillar. Finally, it connected with the dynamic smooth but strong D-pillar, forming a curve that resembled a convertible sports car. The A-type spoiler with high brake lights was the end of the entire body line. The rear design of the Audi Q7 showed unusual movement and innovation. When closed, the side line of the rear door appeared very stable, and at the same time, it produced a sense of forward compactness. The rear door was inlaid with bright decorative strips, cleverly avoiding the overall line of the rear bumper. The tail lights on both sides were very expressive, extending to the side of the car, highlighting the horizontal line of the entire rear. The shoulder line of the car stopped abruptly at the edge of the taillights, and the exhaust pipes were symmetrically distributed on both sides. Models with V6 engines were equipped with exhaust pipes with a diameter of 100 mm. The dynamic shape of the Audi Q7 incorporated countless impressive details. The 20-inch diameter wheel hub was the symbol of the best performance and excellent safety on the road and off-road. Like all the accessories, the reflector was also optimized to achieve the minimum wind resistance, the lowest noise level, anti-dirt, and the best drainage in rainy days. The horizontal turn signal, using LED fiber optics technology, was harmoniously integrated into the car body. All 11 colors were perfectly integrated with the dynamic and elegant car body. They were metallic silver, metallic quartz gray, metallic goshawk gray, pearlescent lava gray, night black, pearlescent phantom black, metallic cobalt blue, pearlescent pomegranate red, calla lotus white, metallic bahia light brown, and metallic maple green. It's convenient for customers to choose. May I know what color Q7 you are interested in? After listening to the sales lady's detailed introduction of the Q7's appearance, Chi-Yu couldn't help but nod with satisfaction and said, "It seems that your training is on point. Thank you for your explanation. I have also carefully studied this car, and it is indeed my best choice. Oh, by the way, I remember it mentioned in the introduction that the Audi Q7 has a total of 3 rows of seats, and the last 2 rows can be completely placed under the floor, right? This is very important to me." The sales lady smiled and said, "It seems that you really know a lot about the Q7. You are right, the Q7's last 2 rows can be completely placed under the floor. At that time, it will have more than 2,000 liters of space in the back row, convenient for you to put some large items." Chi-Yu laughed and said, "Large items don't matter, my goal is to put an airbed, so that I can rest at any time." As he said that, his naughty gaze swept across the sales lady, making her face suddenly blush. It was obvious what Chi Yu was thinking. In fact, when Chi Yu first entered the door, he didn't attract much attention from the sales staff. But when Ting's temperament was too good, that elegant and refined feeling immediately made the sales staff's eyes light up. In their view, when Ting was definitely rich, and Chi Yu was tall and looked like his bodyguard. That's why they sent the sales representative with the most professional knowledge to receive the two of them. But this sales representative could clearly see the relationship between Wen Ting and Chi Yu from the way she looked at Chi Yu. This man with only one arm was actually this stunning beauty's husband? This was simply too inconceivable. Looking at the naughty smile in Chi Yu's eyes, the sales lady said in a professional manner, "You can take a look inside the car. If you want, I can further explain it to you." Chi Yu smiled indifferently and said, "There's no need for that. I think I already have enough understanding of this car. Actually, what I admire the most is its 5-mode lifting air chassis, which can be very suitable for driving on any road. It's more than 5 meters long, close to 2 meters wide, and almost 1.8 meters tall, which is very suitable for my figure. If I want to make an Audi Q7 belong to me in the shortest time possible, I wonder how long you can make it?" The sales lady smiled confidently and said, "We have a good cooperation with the vehicle management department. If you want, we can handle all the procedures in 2 hours, complete the license plate and handover process." Chi Yu smiled and said, "That's good. I need a 4.2-liter displacement, the top version of the Q7. As for the color, I want metallic silver. That's my favorite color." The sales lady didn't expect Chi Yu to make a decision so quickly. 4 sales representatives like them, every car sold would have a different degree of commission. A top version of the Q7 would cost nearly 1.3 million yen Huang dollars. Including the taxes and other processing fees, it would be about 1.45 million. The commission was definitely not a small amount. When she heard that Chi Yu wanted to buy a car, the smile on her face suddenly became more sincere. "That's good. Sir, please follow me to complete the procedures. There are still some interior choices that you need to complete." Chi Yu nodded and pulled Wen Ting's hand to follow the sales lady to the reception room. The sales lady seemed to be afraid that they would regret it, so she quickly brought a pile of documents over. "Mr. Chi, now there are only 2 top versions of the metallic silver. One has a completely black interior, including black leather and titanium-style panel decoration. The other has a beige interior, including walnut panel decoration. Which one do you choose?" Chi Yu said without hesitation, "Of course the black interior. I don't like walnut. Silver exterior and black interior are more in line with my aesthetic." Silver and black were the colors that belonged to him, Ink Kirin. He didn't even need to think about it to know what decision he should make. The sales lady smiled and said, "Then please follow me to make the payment first. We will definitely complete all the procedures for you in the shortest time possible." Chi Yu nodded and got Wen Ting to wait for him there. He went with the sales lady to the finance department of the franchise dealership. When he handed his Diamond Guardian medal to the finance staff, everyone in the finance department was stunned. The sales lady's eyes sparkled. Which woman wouldn't like diamonds? "Is this a bank card?" the finance staff asked tentatively. Chi Yu nodded and said, "Yes, don't you see the magnetic strip on it?" There was a very thin magnetic strip at the bottom of the Diamond Guardian medal. The finance staff stammered, "But I have never seen a bank card like this. May I know which bank this belongs to?" Chi Yu was also stunned. "Well, I don't know which bank it belongs to, but I think no matter which bank it is, I'm afraid that it can be used. You can try it." Since General G said that he could withdraw funds up to 10 million yen Huang coins, it should be true. Although it was Chi Yu's first time using it, he was very confident. The finance staff nodded and gave the sales lady a look. After all, this was a transaction of over 1 million yen Huang coins. They had to be cautious. The sales lady signaled and left the finance department, leaving Chi Yu alone. Chi Yu pulled a chair over and sat down, I still need to stick a film. I want the Valiant brand, including the windshield. How much will it cost? The treasurer carefully swiped the Diamond Guardian medal on the card reader. His movements were very cautious. After all, the sparkling diamonds on the Diamond Guardian medal were very valuable just from the luster alone. He did not want anything to go wrong. The payment process was very smooth. There wasn't even a password. A huge sum of nearly 1,500,000 was completed. The finance staff secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He respectfully returned the Diamond Guardian medal to Chi Yu and said, "Sir, please keep it well." At this moment, the sales lady came in with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was wearing a well-ironed suit. As soon as he entered the door, he gave the finance staff a questioning look. The finance staff nodded, indicating that the transaction was completed. The middle-aged man said to Chi Yu, "Hello, sir. I'm the sales manager here. Since your magnetic card is a little new to us, could you please wait here for a while? We need to verify it." Chi Yu made an indifferent expression and said, "There's no problem with the verification, but don't take up too much of my time. In any case, the car is still with you. I hope that you can quickly complete the procedures during the verification process. Also, help me stick the film on the car. I'll give you 3 hours. After 3 hours, we'll come back for the car." The middle-aged man hurriedly said, "Okay, don't worry. We will definitely satisfy you." Chi Yu walked out of the finance office. The excitement in his heart was indescribable. He had hoped to have his own car since he was young. Originally, his favorite car was Porsche Cayenne. But after the launch of the Q7, his goal immediately changed. Perhaps Audi was not as good as Porsche in terms of brand, but the comprehensive performance, domineering appearance, and wide body of the Q7 made Chi Yu extremely satisfied. Therefore, when choosing the car, he didn't hesitate to bring Wen-Ting here. "Ting-Ting, they need time to complete the procedures. Let's go out for a walk." Chi Yu called Wen-Ting, and the two walked outside together. In 3 hours they would leave this place. "Chi Yu, after we get the car, where are we going first?" While walking outside, Wen-Ting asked Chi Yu. Chi Yu thought for a while and said, "The memory left by your father said that when we do body fusion training, it is best to be in a place with sufficient energy, especially sufficient heat. I have also considered it. What do you think about finding a place with a hot spring? The heat in the hot spring should be very good." Wen-Ting smiled and said, "The heat of a hot spring? It should be okay, but the best heat is definitely not a hot spring." Chi Yu asked curiously, "If it's not a hot spring, then what is it?" Wen-Ting said, "Do you still need to ask? Of course, it is a volcano. What is more powerful than the heat of magma?" "Ugh, forget about the volcano. Do you want us to burn ourselves? If there is a problem, it will be troublesome. If I still have my thundercloud force, it would be fine. But in the current situation, we should try to be more conservative." Wen-Ting smiled and said, "I'm just joking with you. Hot spring is good enough. Where should we go for a hot spring?" Chi Yu thought about it and said, "There are a few good hot springs near the capital. I heard people say that there is a place called Dragon Vein Hot Springs in the northern suburbs of the capital. Have you heard of it? Since it is called Dragon Vein, the hot springs should be good." Wen-Ting raised her small hand and poked Chi Yu's head. You really don't understand. The Dragon Vein Hot Springs got its name not because there is a dragon vein there. In the capital of Yanhuang, the central point is naturally the Forbidden City where the ancient royal family was. As for the Dragon Vein Hot Springs, because it is a straight line from the Forbidden City, it is on the same axis. That is why it is called Dragon Vein. It is not a real dragon vein. Although the feng shui theory may not be fake, it is a little too vague. But since you mentioned it, let's go there. It is a tourist attraction, and we can take a look around." At this moment, Chi Yu's phone suddenly rang. He took out his phone and saw that it was Jida's number. "Disciple, why are you calling me so soon? Do you miss your master? Or is there something you don't understand about the cultivation method I gave you?" Chi-yu teased as he answered the phone. Master, of course I miss you, but I'm not calling you for this. Did you just buy a car? Jida's deep voice came from the phone. Chi-yu subconsciously nodded his head and said, You're really well informed. You'll know as soon as I'm done with the payment. Jida said proudly, Of course. Don't forget, we are the highest special department in Yanhuang. Master, why didn't you tell me if you needed a car? I could have just gotten one for you. Chi-yu said with a smile, That's good. Why don't you give me your own? I have a good impression of your modified car. That. Then you better buy it. I can't give my baby to you. Your driving is too crazy. If I give it to you when you come back, I'm afraid that my precious baby will also be scrapped. Since you've already bought it, how about this? I'll have someone send you a special pass later. With this special pass, no matter where you drive in the future, you won't have to pay the highway toll. Moreover, it won't bring any trouble. Chi-yu chuckled and said, Then won't I become a privileged class? Jida said, Master, you have to understand that when you have the Diamond Protection Medal, you are already a privileged class. Even my old man can't give you orders. Oh, there is one more thing you have to be careful about. Something happened to our Yanhuang soul. I just received the news. Before you leave the capital, you must be careful. Chi-yu was stunned for a moment and said, Something happened to the Yanhuang soul? What happened? Jida said, Our Yanhuang soul's most mysterious snow girl suddenly went berserk and left the Yanhuang soul's headquarters. Now her whereabouts are unknown. Didn't you notice that the sky is already gloomy? I am afraid that is the reason for her disappearance. Chi-yu's heart jolted as he raised his head to look at the sky. Sure enough, the previously clear sky had unknowingly become overcast with dark cloud. The originally cold weather was now even colder, as if it was about to snow. Snow Girl? Her energy can actually change the weather? How much energy does that require? Jida smiled bitterly and said, Snow Girl's ability is one of the Yanhuang soul's top secrets. I only know that she is a special member of the Yanhuang soul. She doesn't belong to any of the Heaven, Earth, Mystic, and Yellow group. Perhaps it is because her energy and emotions are not stable enough. Now that she has suddenly disappeared, our Yanhuang soul has been mobilized and is looking for her everywhere. However, this matter has nothing to do with you. It can't be such a coincidence for you to meet her. Alright, Master, I have to hurry up and join the operation. I wish you all the best. After hanging up the phone, Ting asked, Chi-yu, who is the snow girl you mentioned just now? Chi-yu shrugged and said, I don't know who she is, but Jida said that the snow girl of their Yanhuang soul has suddenly disappeared. Look, now even the weather has changed. Can humans have the ability to change the weather? This is too terrifying. Ting giggled and said, To think that you're a Qilin. What's so great about changing the weather? I can do it too. This kind of changing the weather isn't as difficult as you think. It's not using one's own energy to form the weather, it's just using energy to influence the weather. Moreover, the influence on the weather can only be limited to a certain range. The stronger the energy, the larger the range of the weather they can control. If I go all out and spread my energy, I can probably raise the temperature of half of the capital by about 10 degrees. You can also do this, but you have never tried it before. Chi-yu smiled and said, This is not bad. The weather is so cold now. If you raise the temperature by 10 degrees, you will feel much more comfortable. Ting said angrily, I can't believe you thought of that. I think you must be tempted when you heard that the missing person is a woman. Are you thinking that, if you can get your hands on this snow lady, you won't even need to use air conditioning when you have her by your side in the summer? How can that be? Ting, why are you so jealous? I have never even seen this snow girl. What does she have to do with me? Maybe she is even an ugly woman. Well, let's go for a walk. At noon, we will come back to pick up our precious car. Ting said, 3 hours? Where are we going? Chi-yu said with a smile, That's easy. Of course, we will go to a big supermarket. We bought such a big car, so we naturally have to buy all the necessary things. Let's go to the supermarket to buy. The two directly booked a taxi and began to buy for a full 3 hours. When Chi-yu arrived at the supermarket, the first thing he chose was a high-class airbed about 1.5 meters wide and some pure cotton bedding. Looking at him loading the airbed and bedding onto the supermarket cart, Wen-ting couldn't help but blush. She said, "You really want to put a bed in the car?" Chi-yu said, "Of course. Did you think I was joking just now? You don't know, but my biggest dream was to have a large off-road vehicle and then put a airbed in the back. Paste 4 big words on the window." "What 4 words?" Wen-ting asked curiously. "Mobile sex room. How is it? Very appropriate, right?" Chi-yu said with a smirk. "Go to hell. Chi-yu, you are a pervert. Humph, don't even think about it. Even if we buy an airbed, I will sleep alone. If you dare to come up, humph." Wen-ting threatened Chi-yu fiercely. Chi-yu pretended to be thinking. "Why do I remember that someone said yesterday that she would repay me with her body? Why did it change today? Sigh, women are really fickle creatures. Bah, who said that she would repay me with her body? Are you asking for a beating? Humph." Wen-ting forcefully pinched the soft flesh on Chi-yu's waist. Chi-yu felt the pain and said, "You can bully me. When my thundercloud force recovers, be careful that I will rape you." Wen-ting giggled and said, "That will have to wait until you recover." "You have reminded me. If I don't take this opportunity to bully you, wouldn't it be a loss?" "This, Wen-ting, can we discuss it? I know I was wrong. I won't paste the words mobile brothel. Think about it. In the future, we will travel all over the country. If we miss the accommodation, we must have a place to rest. Don't worry, as long as you don't allow it, I will never touch you. In this way we can sleep together. The back of the car is so big, it is enough for the 2 of us to sleep." Wen-ting snorted and said, "Can you promise?" Chi-yu immediately said seriously, "I promise. Of course, if you insist on throwing yourself into my arms, I am afraid my resistance will not be able to bear it." "Bah, you wish. Alright, let's go shopping." Both of them walked out of their sorrowful moods and strolled through the supermarket like the most intimate of couples. Chi-yu seemed to have forgotten that he had lost all of his cloud power, while Wen-ting seemed to have forgotten about her father's appearance yesterday. Unknowingly, they had both treated each other as people they could rely on. It was not just love. When 2 orphans were together, other than love, there was also a sense of kinship between them. 3 hours was not a short time, but in the process of shopping in the supermarket, it passed very quickly. The things they bought completely filled the entire taxi's trunk, and then they excitedly returned to the Audi franchise store. After they finished shopping and came out of the supermarket, there was a small episode. The weather had changed and tiny snowflakes were falling from the sky. Perhaps because the snowflakes had taken away the dust in the air at this time was much clearer than in the morning. Chi-yu only thought of the 2 words snow girl, but he did not worry too much. The Yen Huang Soul's problem would be solved by itself. He had already lost his thundercloud force, so he did not need to worry about this anymore. When Chi-yu and Wen-ting returned to the Audi franchise store, before they entered the door, they saw a silver car parked outside the sales hall. The domineering front face, the domineering body full of muscles, it was the Audi Q7. Chi-yu and Wen-ting clearly felt that this was the car that belonged to them. The 2 almost ran in the direction of the car at the same time. The silver body looked extremely bright. Although the weather was gloomy, it could not hide its moving and noble temperament. On the body of the car there were white snowflakes, which seemed to add a bit of gentleness to the domineering car. Chi-yu pressed his hand on the wide and stable front of the car. "Baby, from now on, you will be my little wife." Chapter 106. Chi-yu chuckled and said, "You're the main wife. Even a small wife has to listen to the main wife. Isn't that right?" Wen-ting blushed and said, "I'm the main wife? Then what about the two in your dragon-field courtyard? Chi-Yu said matter-of-factly. Isn't it fine if they're both the main wife? This problem is too easy to solve. A man's heart is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. You're the embodiment of a man's deep-rooted bad habit. Chi-Yu said, Do I have to pretend to be a gentleman for you to like me? If I did that, I wouldn't be Chi-Yu anymore. I would hide everything in my heart. Do you think you'd like someone like that? Wen-Ting was stunned by Chi-Yu's question. That's right. Would she like a man like that? The answer was no. After being stunned for a moment, she immediately reacted. You're so annoying. Ming, I was the one questioning you. Why did you turn it around? Chi-Yu said proudly, Of course it's because my character is good. You're so disgusting. Give me the plastic bag, I want to vomit. Chi-Yu pretended to be surprised and said, Is my ability that strong? I didn't even need the most intimate physical contact to make you have it. Even I can't help but admire myself. Chi-Yu, what? You don't have to be so loud. My ears are very good. Go to hell. Wen-Ting fiercely rushed towards Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu laughed and immediately circled around his car to avoid Wen-Ting's pursuit. Can the two of you stop for a moment? An inopportune voice interrupted Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting's banter. Chi-Yu stopped in his tracks and embraced Wen-Ting, who had caught up to them. The one who interrupted them was the sales manager from before. His expression was very respectful as he smiled at the two of them and said, All the procedures have been completed and the film has been affixed. Please do not drop the glass for the next 3 days to prevent any problems from occurring before the film is glued firmly. All the procedures, car license, maintenance manual, and your ID are in this bag. As he spoke, he handed a craft paper bag with an Audi mark to Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu took the bag and said, Your efficiency is really good. Thank you. The sales manager said, This is what we should do. Oh, by the way, Mr. Chi, your friend has just sent a special pass. With this special pass, your car doesn't need to have a license plate. I have already put the pass under the windshield. At the same time, our store will also give you a set of high-end pure wool mat. They are all in the car. The fuel has been filled. Now it is yours. As he spoke, he handed 2 integrated multi-function keys to Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu looked at the keys with 4 circles. His heart couldn't help but heat up. He couldn't wait any longer. Indeed, Chi-Yu, who was over 1.9 meters tall, stood beside the majestic Audi Q7. His originally average-looking appearance was set off by the car, making him look even more handsome. Coupled with the role of Wen-Ting beside him, he looked like a successful person. Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting moved the things they bought from the supermarket into the car. The sales manager obviously knew how to conduct himself and helped them move the things over. However, when he saw that Chi-Yu used the car's air pump to inflate the air mattress and put the Q7's rear seat down, putting the air mattress into the wide space behind, the look in his eyes couldn't help but become strange. He looked at Wen-Ting more than once, and Wen-Ting's pretty face became hot. Sitting in the wide seat, Chi-Yu grasped the steering wheel in front of him with satisfaction. The black interior looked very deep. Black leather seats, black panels, and titanium alloy decorations were full of elegant and profound atmosphere. The car was very high, and when looking forward, there would be a feeling of looking down, which filled Chi-Yu's heart with the desire to conquer. The Q7 didn't need a key to start. There was a wireless system in the key. Through the chip, when Chi-Yu took the key to the side of the car, the door would automatically open. When he pressed the start button, the car was so stable that there wasn't even a tremble. This Audi Q7 with a super strong 4.2-liter engine started smoothly. All the instruments seemed to be measured in an instant, so the lights were a match of red and white, and the elegant and noble atmosphere immediately filled every corner of the car. The MML car, which was full of Yanhuang characters, could only be started by the system. At a glance, Chi-Yu saw the 5 different suspension indicators on the car. Through the only button, He tilted his body and used his left hand to choose the comfortable suspension. Chi-yu, let me drive. It's inconvenient for you to use your hand, Wen-ting said with concern. Chi-yu shook his head and said, No, I can drive. This is an automatic car and one hand is enough. Usually, I don't need to change gears. As he spoke, he put on the forward gear and slightly lifted the brake. The huge car slowly and steadily left the place, like a huge monster, and drove out of the franchise dealership. Only those who really drove an advanced off-road vehicle could deeply experience the strong driving feeling brought by him. Although Chi-yu only had one hand and couldn't fully use the manual switching function of the Q7's advanced transmission, it was enough for him. With a light tap of his right foot, the car sped up quickly without any noise in the car, and the two quickly entered the road. Wen-ting didn't ask to drive anymore. She moved her seat back a little and leaned back to look at the roof of the car. The Q7 with the high gear configuration had a panoramic sunroof. Through the black sunroof, everything in the sky could be clearly seen. Looking at the tiny snowflakes falling from the sky, Wen-ting couldn't help but reveal a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. In her mind, this seemed to be more than a car. At the same time, it was also her and Chi-yu's home. This wasn't Chi-yu's first time driving an off-road vehicle. He had also driven Jida's car before. After Jida's car was modified, its horsepower was extremely powerful, and the handling was also much better than ordinary off-road vehicles. However, in terms of luxury, it was much worse than the Q7 that Chi-yu had just bought. The Q7 was the latest technological product of Audi, and it had all kinds of comfortable features. In just a short while, Chi-yu gradually adapted to the various functions of the Q7. Although he only had one arm, it was enough after putting on the forward gear. The high-displacement engine gradually let out a pleasant low roar, carrying Chi-yu and Wen-ting to the north of Beijing. Driving was originally a kind of enjoyment for Chi-yu. While driving, he chatted with Wen-ting beside him. With the warm air in the car, the atmosphere was extremely comfortable. As Chi-yu wasn't very familiar with the road to the Dragon Vein hot spring, they took a few wrong turns. Therefore, it took them a full hour to arrive at the Dragon Vein hot spring. From afar, they could already see the hotel at the front of the Dragon Vein hot spring from the car window. On the surface, although the hotel wasn't very luxurious, it was still passable. Chi-yu pondered in his heart. From the outside, there didn't seem to be any traces of a hot spring. Where exactly was this hot spring? A good car always had its advantages. When Chi-yu drove the car to the Dragon Vein hot spring hotel and stopped, a doorman in charge of reception immediately ran over to open the door for them. Wen-ting took advantage of the opportunity when Chi-yu was driving to take a short nap. She stretched her soft waist and said to Chi-yu, "Is this the place? It looks very ordinary." Chi-yu asked the doorman, "Where is the hot spring here? Are there any accommodations?" The doorman hurriedly said, "Of course there are accommodations. Our hot spring here is divided into 3 parts. You can enjoy the hot spring in 3 different ways. One is the hot spring that includes swimming. The second is that your room can provide hot spring water. You can soak in the hot spring in your room. The last one is the newly developed outdoor hot spring next to the hotel." Chi-yu thought for a while and said to Wen-ting, "Where are we going? Why don't we just soak in the room?" Wen-ting saw the mischievous glint in Chi-yu's eyes and knew that he was up to no good. She snorted and said, "No, I want to go to the hot spring. Let's go, let's stay here first." Chi-yu shrugged and said, "I'll listen to you." The two of them walked into the hotel under the guidance of the doorman. After asking around, they found out that this hotel wasn't the whole of the Dragon Vein hot spring, but only a small part. There was an antique wall next to the hotel. Inside the wall was a high-end villa that could be rented, but the price was naturally much higher than the hotel. Behind the rented villa was the outdoor hot spring that the doorman mentioned. Chi-yu wasn't afraid of spending money now. After discussing with Wen-ting, they finally decided to rent a villa as a place for the two of them to cultivate for a period of time. The reason why they decided to rent a villa for the summer was mainly because the receptionist told them that there was a special hot spring equipment in the villa. The water could be directly drawn from the hot spring below, and the pool in the villa could form a hot spring at any time. Because the temperature of the hot spring was very high, there was no problem even if it was winter. Moreover, the guests could choose their swimming clothes for free. However, when Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting arrived at their rented villa under the guidance of the receptionist, Chi-Yu immediately regretted it. There was only one reason, and that was because there were too many rooms in this villa. Watching Wen-Ting walk into the largest room and shut him outside, Chi-Yu couldn't help but feel regret. If they only stayed in an ordinary guest room, he wouldn't be locked outside no matter what. Perhaps he could further develop his relationship with Wen-Ting. However, it was useless to fantasize now. There were so many rooms in the villa, and Wen-Ting's intention was very clear. Fortunately, the hot spring outside was not too big, and there would always be opportunities to get intimate. The exterior decoration of the villa was light blue, giving off a very refreshing feeling. Of course, this kind of villa obviously couldn't be compared to the huge courtyard of the Dragonfield courtyard, which was as huge as a golf course. The entire villa had 3 floors. In addition to the 3 halls, there were 3 rooms on each floor. It was considered a small villa. Outside the villa was a small courtyard of about 300 square meters. There was a big tree near the door. Unfortunately, it was winter now, and the tree had already become bare. Chi-Yu didn't bring anything out. He just drove the car to the courtyard of the villa, and then moved the things that he and Wen-Ting bought from the supermarket upstairs. Their rooms were all on the 2nd floor, and they basically didn't sleep last night. After putting the things away, Chi-Yu immediately lay down on his own bed. Every room here had a double bed, and it felt very comfortable to lie on it. As expected of a famous tourist attraction, it was indeed very considerate. Just as Chi-Yu was about to sleep for a while, Wen-Ting suddenly came. Because there were only 2 people in the villa, Chi-Yu and Wen-Ting didn't close the door. Seeing Wen-Ting run in from outside, he couldn't help but tease, "What's wrong? You can't wait. Come on, I'll follow you." "Follow you, my ass. Chi-Yu, there seems to be something wrong here. Just now, I clearly felt that there seemed to be an unidentifiable energy continuously appearing around us. Every time it appeared, it would only last for about a minute, and when it appeared again, it would immediately change directions." Chi-Yu's eyes flashed and he sat up on the bed. "You can't be wrong, right? Could it be the heat from the hot spring?" Wen-Ting shook her head and said, "No, definitely not. I can feel the heat from the hot spring. Don't forget, I'm originally a fire element. The hot spring here is indeed full of energy, but the energy of the hot spring is very deep underground. And the energy I felt just now is in the air. Moreover, although I can't be sure of its attribute, it's definitely not the fire element like the hot spring. It's better for us to be careful." Chi-Yu frowned slightly and said, "So, it's possible that there are fierce beasts nearby? It seems that our luck is really good. Is this considered as going out to meet a happy occasion?" Wen-Ting said snappily, "What happy occasion? If it's a powerful fierce beast, I'm afraid we won't be able to fight it. Now we can't separate. In case we encounter trouble, we still have a chance to react." Chi-Yu said with a smile, "That's good. Come, my bed is very big, I've been waiting for you." A sweet smile appeared on Wen-Ting's pretty face, and she said, "All right, then I'll also stay in this room. But look, there's only a pillow and a quilt on your bed. I'm afraid of the cold. Can you go to my room and bring my pillow and quilt over?" The lethality of a beautiful woman was already very big. When a beautiful woman smiled, this lethality was multiplied. Looking at the coquettish smile in Wen-Ting's eyes, Chi-Yu's soul almost flew out of his body. He hurriedly agreed, jumped up from the bed, and quickly ran to Wen-Ting's room to get the pillow and quilt. However, he didn't see that behind Wen-Ting's coquettish smile, there was a hint of slyness. After a while, Chi-Yu came back with the quilt and pillow in one hand. As soon as he entered, he saw Wen-Ting lying on his bed with her legs crossed. However, the position of the bed was shifted a little to the side, revealing an empty space about a meter wide. Wen-Ting pointed to the ground with her right hand and said with a smile, "Good boy. Go and carry the quilt and make your bed on the floor. I'll reluctantly sleep in the same room with you." Chi-Yu looked at Wen-Ting with a wry smile and said, "Ting-Ting, are you willing to let me sleep on the floor alone?" Wen-Ting said matter-of-factly, "What's there to be unwilling about? This is the second floor, there's no problem sleeping on the floor. What's more, your physical condition is very good now." Chi-Yu put the quilt on the bed first and said, "How can that be? My body is very weak now and I need your warmth." Wen-Ting snorted and said, "Come on, don't think that I really don't know what you did in the morning. I woke up in the middle of your conversation. If you don't want me to call Ryue and tell them about the desert storm, then be good. Don't go back on your word." You saw it?" Chi-Yu looked at Wen-Ting, dumbfounded. Wen-Ting's pretty face turned slightly red and she said, "That woman is really too. Alright, tell me, do you want me to inform Ryue and the rest, or do you want to sleep on the floor?" Chi-Yu helplessly pulled the quilt to the floor. "Forget it, I'll bear with it." He simply pulled the quilt. After all, he only had one arm, so he did not spread it out neatly before lying down. He thought to himself, "Shangbing, oh Shangbing, you little vixen, you've really killed me this time." Wen-Ting did not seem angry when she saw that scene in the morning, but it was obvious that she wanted to keep her distance from him. "I'm wronged. It's here again." Wen-Ting suddenly sat up from the bed. A red light flashed in her eyes, and she concentrated on looking out the window. Chi-Yu also hurriedly sat up and said, "Can you determine the specific location?" Wen-Ting shook her head and said, "I can't. That energy is very erratic, but I can feel that it seems to be very closely related to the surrounding environment. The environment here has completely become its best protective umbrella. Although my spiritual power is not as strong as yours before, I should be able to sense it at such a close distance. But now I can only sense it, but I can't confirm it." Chi-Yu said, "Forget it, don't argue with him. Now that I no longer have thundercloud force, although I have lost my previous strength, the energy fluctuations in my body have also disappeared. And you have completed the last transformation of the giant beast relic. The energy in your body can also be completely restrained, so you don't have to worry about people coming to find you. Why bother yourself? Anyway, no matter who that energy is, it won't be coming to find trouble with us. Ting-Ting, let's go to the hot spring. Since we're already out, we need to hurry up. Let's try to comprehend the ability that Uncle taught us as soon as possible." Looking at Chi-Yu's serious face, Wen-Ting was very suspicious if his purpose of training with her was really to increase his strength, but his suggestion was very reasonable. She could only nod and said, "All right then, go to another room to change your clothes. Then go to the hot spring. Let's meet downstairs." Chi-Yu said gently, "All right, then I'll go downstairs and wait for you. Ting-Ting, remember to wear a big towel in case you catch a cold." Watching Chi-Yu leave the room, Wen-Ting's gaze was a little dazed. This morning, when Lu Shangbing appeared, she had already woken up, mainly because of the threat that the few policemen brought to Chi-Yu, which caused Chi-Yu to naturally send out a signal of danger. As she and Chi-Yu had already merged, their blood was connected. When Chi-Yu sensed the danger, Wen-Ting immediately woke up from her training state. Therefore, everything that happened afterwards was completely under her control. When Lu Shangbing used that special method to repay Chi-Yu, Wen-Ting wanted to go out and stop him, but she was really too embarrassed to see that scene, so she could only endure it. However, the desert storm had a huge impact on her. Human emotions were selfish. Although she knew very well that Qilin's playfulness was innate, she still found it hard to accept it. Previously, she could still endure it outside, but now that she was in the Dragon Vein hot spring, her heart calmed down, and she could not help but think of everything that happened in the morning. Chiyu left Wenting's room, and he could not help but secretly feel happy. "You don't want me to sleep with you, hee. Let's sleep together, right?" Wenting was so beautiful, and her figure was so good. There would be many opportunities to soak in the hot spring in a swimsuit. As he thought about it, he quickly found an empty room to change into his swimming trunks, then put on a thick big towel, ran outside the house, turned on the hot spring water, and filled the pool that could accommodate about 4 people. The smell of the hot spring was not very pleasant, and the faint smell of sulfur made Chiyu a little uncomfortable. However, he could clearly feel that there was a gentle energy in the hot spring, which spread out with the appearance of the hot spring water. If the taste was bad, then so be it. After all, the purpose of him and Wenting coming out was not to play. Thinking of this, his previously lascivious heart gradually calmed down. At this time, the snow in the sky became a little heavier, and the snowflakes dyed the surroundings silver white. When about half of the water in the pool was filled, Chiyu could not stand the cold and directly jumped into the water. In that instant Chiyu's entire body was enveloped by the scorching hot spring. That instant of comfort almost caused Chiyu to moan out loud. The steam rising from the hot spring melted the snowflakes drifting down from above, and the chill from before was swept away in an instant. His body was surrounded by warmth, and then looking at the floating snowflakes around him, it was definitely a top-notch enjoyment. At this time, Wenting also walked out of the villa. Her somewhat petite body was tightly wrapped in a white and thick big towel, and her pretty face was slightly red, not knowing whether it was because of the cold outside or because of shyness. Previously, when she was choosing a swimsuit, Chiyu just went to the bathroom and did not know what style she chose. Looking at Wenting's pair of smooth and round calves that were exposed, Chiyu secretly thought in his heart, would Wenting buy a bikini swimsuit? Wenting walked to the pool and stopped. She lowered her head and looked down at Chiyu and whispered, You can't go out of line later." Listening to her somewhat pleading voice, Chiyu's heart softened and said, "Come down quickly, it's so cold up there." "Don't worry, although I am a pervert, I don't have the habit of forcing beautiful women. We are here to cultivate." As he spoke, he extended his left hand to Wenting. At this time, he also felt a faint layer of estrangement between him and Wenting. Although he did not say anything, there was a little uncomfortable feeling in the bottom of his heart. Wenting untied the towel, and Chiyu's eyes suddenly lit up. Wenting's swimsuit was not the bikini he imagined. It could be said that it was the one with the most fabric of all the swimsuits. Not only was it a one-piece, but there was also a small skirt on the lower body, only about half of the thighs could be seen. Even so, Chiyu was still a little dazed by the sight. Compared with Ryue, Wenting's figure was more slender. She did not have a full chest like Ryue, but every part of her body looked so well proportioned. Wenting's skin was very white. It looked like water and tender. Her long black hair had been combed on the top of her head, adding a sense of gentleness. After testing the temperature of the water with her feet, Wenting carefully walked down. The somewhat hot water obviously brought her a very comfortable feeling. Wenting's eyebrows relaxed a lot. She let out a long breath and sat down opposite of Chiyu. "It's really comfortable." Wenting smiled at Chiyu. Chiyu looked at the floating snowflakes around and smiled. "Yes. The feeling of soaking in the hot spring in the snow is indeed a wonderful enjoyment. Let's soak for a while before we start. I can already feel the heat in the hot spring nourishing my body." Although he had lost the thundercloud force, Chiyu's body was still very sensitive to energy. Wenting did not object to Chiyu's proposal. She nodded gently, closed her eyes, leaned her body against the wall of the pool, and felt the heat brought by the hot spring. Looking at Wenting's elegant face gradually exuding a rosy luster under the steam of the hot spring, Chiyu could not help but have the urge to go forward and take a bite. However, he held back in the end. Since the matter in the morning was seen by Wenting, it could not be said to be a misunderstanding. Perhaps he was really too fickle. If Wenting really could not accept his words, then it was better for everyone to calm down. Thinking of this, Chi Yu's heart gradually calmed down. He closed his eyes and focused his energy on the spiritual imprint in his mind. Through the exploration of spiritual power, the spiritual imprint left by Wenting's father gradually became clear. Chi Yu knew that this fusion ability was actually based on the foundation of Wenting's giant beast relic. As Wenting's body had a huge amount of energy as a foundation, and this energy was related to Kirin's bloodline, he could temporarily use it when Wenting was completely open about her body and mind. In fact, the difference between fusion and devouring was only a thin line. If he used the mind-snatching ability after Wenting injected the energy into his body, he could completely plunder Wenting's energy as his own. No wonder old Ink Kirin said that it was because he risked his life to save Wenting that he would pass on the fusion ability to him. After all, such a huge amount of energy was probably enough to move anyone. Even Chi Yu himself was no exception. However, in his heart, Wenting was more important than this energy. If he wanted to achieve a tacit understanding with the fusion, he would have to go through continuous experiment. Only by going through the fusion process again and again would he be able to find more similarities between the two bloodlines and minimize the conflict between their energy and bloodlines. Under such circumstances, the fusion between the two would be perfect and would be effective for a longer period of time. After sensing the specific situation of the complete fusion, Chi Yu already had some plans in mind. He recalled the changes in the energy in his body when he had gone through the fusion twice with Wenting, as well as the feeling of being connected to Wenting's bloodline. He kept thinking. After some time, Wenting's voice woke Chi Yu from his thoughts. "Can we start?" When he opened his eyes, Chi Yu noticed that Wenting's gaze had become much gentler than before. He nodded at her and said, "Let's start." Wenting hesitated for a moment and said, "Chi Yu, do you think that I'm not magnanimous enough and that I'm too willful?" Chi Yu shook his head and said, "How can that be? If I were a woman, I would also feel uncomfortable seeing the man I like doing that with another woman. It's my fault. I'm too fickle. I'm sorry, Ting Ting. I think we need to calm down. Let's calm down during cultivation, okay?" Wenting shook her head and said, "No, if we can't connect our minds during the fusion, the effect will be much worse. Before we start cultivating, we must untie the knot in our hearts. I've thought about it carefully just now. In fact, today's fault isn't on you. After all, you weren't willing at that time. With your body's condition, you wouldn't have been able to resist that police officer. I was too shy and didn't go forward to stop her. Chi Yu, can you tell me about that policewoman? At that time, I seem to have heard you say that she was related to the Dark Parliament." Chi Yu nodded and said, "All right, since you're willing to listen, I'll start from the beginning. The first time I met Xiangbing was when I was in the Sun Nation." He understood that Wenting had already given in. She was willing to listen to his explanation, which proved that she wasn't really angry. In this case, the conflict would be much easier to resolve. At that moment, Chi Yu recounted in detail how he got to know Lu Xiangbing, how he met her in the country, how he discovered Lu Xiangbing's identity, and how he almost died in Lu Xiangbing's hands until this morning. He didn't even leave out the process of detoxification. After listening to Chi Yu's story, Wenting couldn't help but open her mouth slightly. "No way. That thing of Kirin's has detoxification effects? Why haven't I heard of it?" Chi Yu laughed and said, "After all, you only have half of Kirin's bloodline. Naturally, it's impossible for you to know everything. How about it? Are you interested in being poisoned? I'll definitely help you detoxify it. You might as well die." Wenting pushed the water in front of her away shyly, splashing water all over Chi Yu's face.